The story begins with several system windows alerting citizens to a series of unusual events happening worldwide. Fishermen reported discovering a giant abalone off the coast, so massive that not even 10 people could encircle it. It is suspected to be a mutation caused by nuclear wastewater. Additionally, there were reports of an ancient tree in a tourist area growing uncontrollably, its roots spreading for kilometers, and cracks forming in the ground due to a potential abnormal earth pulse. The notifications continued with news of giant vines falling from the sky, bringing fairy tales to life, and reports of subway tracks being destroyed in multiple locations, resulting in some casualties. No one paid much attention, knowing it was just another round of sensationalist headlines, similar to the false alarm about the zombie bite from years ago. Many students gathered in front of the school, finding local rumors far more intriguing than the news. Suddenly, their focus shifted entirely to the figure approaching, the school's beauty, Chu Qingli. The crowd immediately speculated whether she was finally going to break up with her boyfriend. They believed the relationship was merely an act of charity on her part. Chu Qingli had already been accepted into Qingcheng University, while her boyfriend had yet to secure a spot at a respectable university. As a result, their futures were on entirely different paths. Chu Qingli approached Fang Yi to get his attention, and he turned around, intrigued. With a cold expression, she explained that she had considered it carefully and concluded that their relationship was unrealistic. School-time love often reaches a moment when one wakes up and realizes they are not meant for each other. According to her, a life together demanded not only courage, but also compatibility. For this reason, she believed it was best to end things. She thought with disdain that no matter what he did to win her back, it would be futile. Fang Yi remained silent, leading others to believe that his lack of reaction stemmed from shock, causing him to either collapse or lose his mind. After all, she was the school's beauty. They anticipated he would be on his knees pleading for another chance. However, upon seeing him, they concluded he was no match for a rich and beautiful girl, just a toad yearning for a swan. With a serene expression, Fang Yi agreed to end their relationship. Leaving Chu Qingli and the others were in shock. Realizing she had nothing more to say, our boy turned away from her and chose to leave. In a panic, she called out to him. With a piercing gaze, Fang Yi turned to her and asked what she wanted. Her eyes sparkled with rage as she made it clear that she didn't care about his thoughts or any tricks he might employ. She was not going back with him, and she wanted to ensure that was perfectly understood. Fang Yi started to gaze at her and wanted to ensure that was perfectly understood. I told her not to flatter herself by calling herself the school beauty. Upon hearing this, her eyes widened in surprise and she blushed. The others were taken aback by Fang Yi's attitude. Fang Yi knew that Chu Qingli and the others were unaware of what was about to unfold. He understood that society's existing rules, such as money and education, would soon crumble to dust. They were oblivious to the fact that he had returned from a future catastrophe, a man reborn in this timeline. As a result, the Chu Qingli in front of him felt like a distant stranger from another life. Fang Yi has left the school. He had more pressing matters to focus on. For him, school popularity and reputation were insignificant, as everything was about to undergo a complete transformation. The true crisis was the one looming over all of humanity on Blue Star. It all started the night before when Fang Yi woke up, and some strange cracks revealed glimpses of the future to him. The system then notified him that an aura recovery had been detected. Its full activation would occur in 364 days, 11 hours and 59 minutes. Once this happened, the world would experience an unprecedented transformation. Fang Yi felt a bit perplexed. Several figures emerged before him, and the system announced that society's rules were set to be rewritten. The era of cultivators was on the horizon, and power would become the new norm. Our boy felt a sense of curiosity. He extended his hand and inquired who it was. Suddenly, a strange light began to emerge before him. A system window appeared, stating that it originated from the depths of the universe and utilized advanced algorithms infused with cosmic secrets. Its purpose was to automatically generate cultivation techniques based on the spiritual materials the host interacted with, indicating that the current techniques were non-existent. Fang Yi started to reach out his hand, and his eyes widened in surprise as his hand moved through the system window. Suddenly, a formidable monster appeared and began to roar. Fang Yi was frozen in place, and his eyes brimming with fear. Inside the monster's mouth lay a corpse, and the system indicated that this marked the end of his life as an ordinary person, reflecting the fate of billions on Blue Star. Fang Yi swallowed hard, and he couldn't shake the feeling of fear. Placing his hand over his chest, he felt his eyes well up with worry. Fang Yi began to reflect on his past life. He had been an ordinary person, carried along by the current of events, struggling merely to survive while hoping to overcome the disaster. He witnessed the collapse of his nation and the suffering of its people. Ultimately, he could not escape the mutated beasts. He recalled dying in despair, consumed by rage, driven by a strong desire for revenge. His eyes sparkled with determination as he considered that this might be the reason the system had chosen him and brought him back a year before the recovery of Aura. He reached out his hand, aware that at that moment, most people were unaware of the impending change. Fang Yi gently touched the fragments of the system. He resolved to leverage each anomaly created by the aura to his advantage. The system started to initialize a new evaluation. Our boy's eyes began to sparkle. The system notified him that it had been successfully linked. A new path had been unlocked, allowing him to use everything in existence as material. His mission was to gather powerful techniques and abilities to become a formidable cultivator and save the world. In the city, residents were alerted to an unprecedented crisis facing humanity. Solutions could not be found in the past. The only option was to adapt using their own strength. Everyone was taken aback, except for Fang Yi. When he turned on his phone and saw several notifications, he realized that the government neither confirmed nor denied the strange phenomena, merely advising people to prepare. He understood that this was Sha Nation's subtle method of issuing a warning, as reports once deemed mythical nonsense would never have gained such widespread attention. His eyes filled with sadness as memories of the past resurfaced. He understood that Xia Nation's indirect and silent approach helped citizens stay calm and maintain trust in their country. Although it was a difficult and gradual method, it proved far more effective than the chaos and gunfire seen in neighboring nations. He then recalled that the system had informed him he could use anything, indicating he should go wherever anomalies appeared. He was focused intently on his phone. It was the top trending news. The UV index at Qingcheng University had hit a historic record for the century. As a result, a heat warning was issued, advising new students to take safety precautions and apply sunscreen. Students were somewhat confused, believing that even the top universities now relied on sensationalist advertising. They deemed this misleading, viewing it as a paid topic designed to trend, especially since such extreme heat could be life-threatening. Fang Yi gazed up at the sky, noticing it was filled with clouds. He activated the UV meter and noticed it read 0. Confused, he wondered how the weather could differ so much, considering Qingcheng University was only a 15-minute drive away. Images of a blazing sun above the university were shared, and students were notified that new student registration would proceed. However, they were advised to avoid the north gate due to the high UV index, while all other entrances remained accessible. Fang Yi couldn't suppress a smile. He understood that when anomalies first appeared, most people dismissed them as mere publicity stunts, while he alone knew the truth. His eyes sparkled with joy. His first opportunity had finally arrived. Fang Yi changed clothes and headed to Qingcheng University. Everyone was carrying umbrellas, as it was so hot that the leaves had begun to fall from the trees. Our son headed to the north gate of Qingcheng University, the least crowded entrance of all. He sensed that something was definitely amiss in this place. Shimmering ashes began to fall from the sky. As students rushed to escape the heat, Fang Yi remained focused on the spectacle. He sat down and chose to touch it. As soon as his finger made contact, an intense glow started to radiate from it. The system reported detecting an intense fluctuation in the yang attribute, which unlocked its data template. The energy started to flow into Fang Yi's body, resulting in excruciating pain for him. An intense glow began to radiate from our boys. People covered their eyes to prevent going blind. They were unaware of what was happening and believed they were hallucinating. The energy began to scorch Fang Yi's clothes, causing him to grit his teeth in response. He placed his hands on his head and began to panic, unsure if the system had finished compiling. It felt as though he was on the brink of collapse. The compilation was finished, and Fang Yi obtained a yang attribute technique known as the Golden Sun Breathing Technique. Later, it's the day for new students to enroll at Qingchang University. The main character's ex-girlfriend arrives at the registration area, where a man offers to carry her suitcase. Soon, more guys arrive, hoping to catch her attention, but she declines them all, stating that she doesn't require their assistance. She glances at a nearby couple with a sneer. Suddenly, a bright golden light flashes, catching her and the other students off guard. A voice over the loudspeaker instructs everyone to avoid the north gate. The girl appears serious and decides to investigate what is happening. At the north gate, a massive surge of golden energy illuminates the surroundings. A dark figure emerges from the smoke, exuding a powerful presence. He takes a deep breath, and his eyes shine with a brilliant golden light. A message appears, informing him that he has developed a new technique and earned 50 points. The man gazes at the screen, pondering the purpose of the points. He decides it isn't important at the moment, but will likely be useful later. As time passes, night falls, revealing a peculiar moon in the sky. The young man begins practicing his new breathing technique. A bright sun shines in the sky, and a fresh energy radiates throughout the university. Some students notice the sky darkening and cooling for a moment as they rush to the north gate, where a large crowd has gathered to see what is happening. The university's dean is upset and questions why no one heeded the warning to stay away. The group navigates through the crowd, which parts for them as they make their way to the center. A hooded figure with a serious expression instructs the dean to completely close off the north gate. At that moment, a system informs Fang Yi that he has successfully cleaned a polluted area. He discovers that the government is already aware of these areas and wonders if there are others like him. Upon hearing an alert about restrictions on access to the area, the young man realizes that the situation has become serious. The students notice individuals in uniforms and speculate whether they are from the army. From the rooftop, Fang Yi observes that the disturbance is attracting significant attention. With his red eyes glowing, he decides it's time to go and leaps off the building. Below, the enigmatic figure in the hood walks across the ground, which is fissured from the energy. The hooded figure carefully observes the scene. The person kneels and touches the ground to sense any lingering energy. She then picks up a piece of the ground to examine what happened more closely. The hooded figure inspects it and realizes that a person generated the energy. At that moment, officials start escorting the students away, while the hooded figure observes from a distance. In the crowd, the guy's ex-girlfriend is astonished to learn that only one person was responsible for this. She catches a glimpse of a figure leaping away and briefly wonders if it's her ex, but quickly dismisses the thought his grades would never get him into this school. Meanwhile, at Fang Yi's home, the sun sets. As night falls, the young man lies in bed, frustrated that he still feels hot despite a cold shower, anxious that he won't be able to sleep. He also worries that, due to today's events, someone may have noticed him. He then picks up his phone and notices a trending news story about a cultivation association. The young man recalls that many people once believed it was merely an internet joke. At that moment, he recalls the hooded figures at the university and believes they must be from the association. Intrigued, he opens the news story to read the entire article. It outlines the various cultivation levels, ranging from ghost acts to complete transcendence. In the comments, some people believe it's a joke, while he questions whether the announcement is genuine. Fang Yi reflects on how he was unaware of any of this in his previous life as an ordinary person. Sitting on his bed, he reflects on the cultivation association and resolves to try his technique once more. He closes his eyes and concentrates to begin his training. In that moment, he starts to sweat as a strong, golden energy envelops him as he begins to float in his room, surrounded by a radiant golden glow. A light illuminates him. The first step is to fortify his body to harness the power of heaven and earth. He successfully channels the energy and molds it into a celestial axe. His eyes shine brightly as he smiles. Feeling empowered, he learns from the system that he has attained the Do Shui level, earning an additional 50 points. The man recalls the points and glances at the screen, which indicates that a new path has now opened. The system clarifies that the points can be utilized to integrate the compiled data into any object. He considers the concept of infusing power into an object and gazes at the mug on the table. He extends his hand toward the mug, radiating a golden glow of power. The system prompts him to use 1 point to add the Yang attribute to the mug. He recognizes that this is similar to enchanting an item to bestow it with a special power. The young man believes that by doing this to a weapon, it would transform into his unique tool for combat. He concludes that having an upgraded weapon will be crucial for what lies ahead. The guy then discovers a small sword on his shelf and decides to test its power. He believes that if the test is successful, he will purchase a real weapon to prepare for the monsters. Suddenly, a strange noise from outside the building captures his attention in the middle of the night. Outside, a shadowy creature with enormous claws is watching Fang Yi's apartment. With glowing red eyes, the strange creature reveals its sharp teeth in the darkness. It resembles a massive demonic rabbit, poised to launch an attack on the building. However, inside the apartment, the man is unaware that danger is approaching. Lying in bed, the man feels uneasy due to his new cultivation technique. With his red eyes, he wonders where the sound comes from. He thinks the sound, which resembles a rat, isn't coming from inside or the pipes. It might be a neighbor's pet. As he walks through the living room, he reflects that with his improved hearing, it's natural to hear the neighbors. The man concentrates his hearing to listen more closely to the unusual sound. However, he quickly senses that something is amiss and becomes alert. Fang Yi approaches the door and encounters the terrifying creature lurking in the dark hallway. In the hallway, a strange creature with red eyes emerges and glares at him. He is prepared to attack when he suddenly becomes startled, recognizing the mutated beast. A haunting memory from his past life fills him with fear. Meanwhile, a drone hovers over the city at night, indicating that others are aware of the looming danger. On a rooftop, a girl expresses her frustration that they have yet to capture the rabbit that devoured a rare fruit. With a lollipop in her mouth, the young woman appears calm and confident about the mission. She instructs her team to continue providing her with updates on the target she is pursuing. After that, the mysterious girl leaps from the top of the building and is set to initiate the chase. She falls quickly, moving with grace. Amid the towering city buildings, suddenly the young woman senses the mutated beast's power and realizes she is drawing near to it. With her eyes shining, she finally spots the creature and prepares for a fight. The enigmatic hunter lands heavily on a rooftop. With incredible agility, she races down the side of a building, receiving the command to pursue the target at all costs. With a flawless landing, the young woman continues her pursuit without pausing. Leaping from building to building, she alerts others that the creature has consumed a special fruit and may evolve. At that moment, a man working late catches a glimpse of something swift darting by. By his window, he feels very confused. He questions whether he is imagining things, but his boss shouts at him for merely standing around. Meanwhile, the hunter looms like a shadow against the moon from the 65th floor. Back in the apartment, Fang Yi confronts the strange creature as it screams at him. With his golden eyes, he recognizes that his body has transformed, allowing him to fight fairly now. The creature lunges with its claws, but the young man evades the attack with remarkable speed. Fang Yi believes his body has truly transformed, allowing him to perceive attacks in slow motion. With solar energy in his hand, he wonders why a mutated beast has appeared so soon. He then recalls memories from his past life and confronts the monster. The man understands that the creature has not fully evolved and that the night only makes it stronger and more aggressive. He rushes forward to attack, knowing he must stop it, or everyone in the building will perish. Fang Yi successfully seizes the creature with his energized hand. With unexpected strength, the man bites the strange creature without a hint of fear. He grips the monster firmly, his golden eyes gleaming with a cold, intense focus. The young man spins the creature into the air and discovers that its tail is its weak spot. Seizing the opportunity, he grips the beast's tail with all his might. Fang Yi hurls the monster against the window, causing it to shatter from the impact. With his fist glowing gold, he prepares to deliver a powerful punch. The man fires a beam of energy that strikes the creature mid-air. The monster then fully covered by a bright, golden beam of light, but the strange creature seizes the golden energy with its claws, attempting to absorb its power. Fang Yi then realizes that the monster is trying to steal his yang energy. He fights back, believing that the sun's power is too intense and that the rabbit is only harming itself. Moments later, a golden explosion engulfs the monster, overwhelming it with energy. In the building next door, a couple is awakened by a noise, and the man wonders if it was thunder. He then approaches the window to take a look, but sees nothing unusual outside. Our hero lands on the floor, encircled by the remnants of his golden energy. The young man believed the creature resembled a starving ghost, intent on consuming his power. After the battle, the monster's eye drops to the floor, releasing a strange black smoke. With a serious expression, he gazes at the remnants of the creature he has just vanquished. Without a second thought, the guy stomps down hard on the eye, crushing the rest of the beast. He realizes that the creature of the night was in desperate need of his opposite yang-type energy. The young man believes that if he were normal, the monster would have easily devoured everyone in the building. He understands that he must learn additional techniques to confront the challenges ahead. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl leaps through the air under the moonlight. Looking like a hunter, the young woman swiftly races down the side of a building. Upon arriving at the scene, the mysterious hunter's eyes widen in shock. Standing there in the stillness of the night, she wonders if someone else has defeated her target. Kneeling on the ground, she observes that the target has been destroyed and resolves to try to regain the night attribute. However, as she touches the monster's remains, she is taken aback by a lingering golden energy. The young woman suddenly feels an intense heat and a searing energy that causes her to instinctively pull back. The young woman recalls the energy at the university gate and realizes that this is no coincidence. Following this discovery, the girl activates her communicator, her expression serious and determined. She informs her team that the target was eliminated by a formidable new forerunner with a unique ability. A voice on a communicator inquires whether the same person cleaned the gate and killed the rabbit. A man confirms that they have no information about this individual and that the association must recruit him. The silver-haired girl nods in agreement with the plan. She then carefully contains the small flame of energy into a container on her clothes. Her boss instructs her to halt her other missions and concentrate on locating the new forerunner. At that moment, the enigmatic hunter, she calmly unwraps the lollipop she is holding. The young woman pops the candy into her mouth and claims she fully understands the new order. However, before starting the mission, the girl says she needs to grab some milk tea to relax. A voice on the communicator questions the identity of this mysterious individual with such immense power. The young woman acknowledges that the president was correct and feels the need to meet this influential figure. Fang Yi's day begins with the sunrise. He stretches, preparing for his training. He understands that waking up early boosts his energy, so he gets ready for another session. The fighter employs his breathing technique, absorbing the morning's golden energy. As this energy envelops him, his eyes shimmer with a golden energy. He enters the Ghost Axe realm and senses the power of the technique emerging. He is taken by surprise by a sudden burst of energy. He realizes he is growing stronger once more. Power surges through his body. He concentrates on controlling it, making a tight fist and feeling the energy coursing through his hand. He summons his key axe and notices that the weapon feels significantly lighter. He firmly grips the handle of the weapon, eager to test his newfound strength. The warrior raises the golden axe above his head. He prepares for a powerful strike, reaching the 2-star Ghost Axe realm and unleashing his strength. His eyes now blaze with golden flames, revealing his newfound power. Feng Yi's body feels significantly stronger and more resilient after this transformation. He grew stronger quickly by harnessing the extra energy from his last power-up. Feng Yi resolves to progress slowly and thoughtfully, taking one step at a time. However, his increasing power attracts significant attention, necessitating a more private location. In the association's office, a man senses something unusual in the atmosphere. He notices the shift in the sun's energy and wonders if it's the new guy again. Feng Yi discovers a peaceful spot by the river to further his plans. A system screen appears, and he confirms that he will enhance his weapon with a special quality. He recalls attempting this with another item, but it couldn't manage the power. This time, the new blade harmonizes with his energy, establishing a strong connection. A system message confirms that the item encoding was successful. Eager to try out his new weapon, he prepares to test its incredible power immediately. The test result astonishes him with the immense power unleashed by the sword. A massive golden beam of light shoots from the blade into the sky. The warrior descends, his sword ablaze, as he feels the power surging within him. He nearly starts a fire with that swing, realizing just how dangerous his strength can be. The smoke from the attack is thick, signaling to him that he has been spotted and must leave immediately. A girl is sprinting quickly toward the smoke he left behind. She expresses frustration that she stepped away for just a moment and missed everything. Suddenly, the young woman halts. She notices that the river is actually boiling. The agent hovers over the damaged area, pondering what the new guy did to cause this. She can already picture being reprimanded, as everything has gone awry since he showed up. At that moment, a golden flash in the distance captures her attention. She becomes curious, while the hunter is taken aback by what he perceives. This shouldn't be possible. His power level has surged from 1 star to 2, and he has even created a spirit weapon. The association possesses only 2 of those weapons, and the complete method for creating them is not fully understood. The girl becomes suspicious, curious about how he acquired this kind of power on his own. However, she believes she must be mistaken and chooses to begin tidying up the mess he created. Far away, Feng Yi reflects on how his weapon now possesses the yang attribute, but he desires more. The system can encode anything, so he intends to enhance the blade with additional qualities. Suddenly, his phone buzzes with a message from an unknown sender. He completely overlooked his desire for privacy, and now a stranger is inviting him to join a pioneers group. He is surprised to discover that official members must be at least at the Ghost Axe realm level. The stranger mentions a new pollution zone and invites him to join a group hunt. He inquires about the location. The stranger sends a file on the lava dragon of the Shadow River. The zone contains lava and shares the same yang attribute as he does. Feng Yi decides to accept the invitation. In the distant Binmu district, a group is gathered, waiting for Old Lee's friend to arrive. A member mentioned that the girl's map was so well made that he was able to find his way there effortlessly. The blonde girl expresses her gratitude to everyone for attending and emphasizes the importance of working together. She is from the Cultivation Association and feels disappointed that the pioneers here lack strength. What many people don't realize is that the Cultivation Association is a government organization. Gaining entry into the group was challenging and required her family to call in favors, which is why she despises the thought of failing. Just then, one of the explorers spots the newcomer arriving and calls out to him by name, Fang. Feng Yi makes a striking entrance with his new sword and introduces himself to the group. The agent is taken aback by his power, but notices that his aura is not intimidating. Instead, it radiates warmth. With the entire team present, the leader signals, and they proceed toward the cave entrance. Feng Yi chooses to go first and asks the blonde agent to handle the light. As the group walks through the cave, One member warns Fang about the loose rocks. They find it odd that the temperature in the cave isn't very high. Feng Yi reflects on how swiftly the team embraced him, believing their friendship is genuine during these challenging times. Feng Yi continues to move forward, and the ground beneath his feet begins to change color, signaling that danger is approaching. Suddenly, they arrive at a vast opening and are astonished to find a river of boiling lava directly in front of them. Without hesitation, Fang rushes toward the danger, while the blonde agent shouts at him not to be so reckless. To everyone's astonishment, the warrior thrusts his sword directly into the lava. The explorers panic and cry out for help. A fiery explosion propels the team backward, and Fang Yi's system identifies a global issue and begins analyzing the data. As Fang Yi plunged his sword into the lava, his system analyzed the anomaly, uncovering a new power, the inner flame, characterized by an exceptionally high internal temperature and explosive properties, and the Scarlet Flame Sword technique, which unleashed its power upon drawing the blade, enveloping it in fire and lightning. Determined, Fang Yi tightened his grip on the sword. His eyes in the blade shimmered with fiery power, showcasing a flawless technique for his Tang sword. Below, the other explorers, pushed back by a previous explosion, watched in awe as Fang Yi stood unharmed in a vortex of fire. Realizing that his weapon was absorbing the lava's power, Fang Yi used his script points to permanently embed the Scarlet Flame attribute into his sword, which now blazed with energy. When the flame died down, his teammates determined that he had experienced a minor cultivation accident and had since recovered. The group was euphoric, realizing that the cave's spiritual energy had stabilized. One member celebrated his ability to absorb it effortlessly, while another, on the brink of starting his cultivation journey, excitedly shouted Xiao's name. The blonde agent, Xiaoya, urged them to train while she stood guard, and the team expressed their gratitude for the opportunity. The tranquility was disrupted when Xiaoya noticed figures approaching the entrance and alerted everyone that other pioneers were arriving. 3 muscular men entered, led by one with an eye patch and glowing red eyes, who arrogantly proclaimed that the resource-rich land now belonged to them. Xiaoya felt a surge of worry as she realized that all 3 newcomers were at the 1-star Ghost Axe realm, a level her team couldn't compete against. Despite the risk, Xiaoya attempted to reason with them, politely pointing out that they had arrived first and even inviting them to join. Her diplomatic efforts were met with disdain. The eye-patch-wearing leader ridiculed her status and commanded them to leave or face the repercussions. Xiaoya's expression grew serious as she contemplated the harsh reality of survival of the fittest in this new era. However, as a member of the Xia Nations Association, she resolved not to stand by and accept this injustice. Just as the confrontation was about to intensify, Fang Yi stepped in front of Xiaoya and the aggressive leader. With his sword ignited, he coldly questioned the large man if he had nothing better to do than to bully a young woman. The eye-patch-wearing leader was left stunned and speechless. After a moment of hesitation, Fang Yi unleashed a single devastating swing that caused a fiery explosion, sending the 3 attackers sprawling. The force of the attack startled Fang Yi's teammates, breaking their meditation. He recalled the tragedies brought about by those who adhered to the principle of survival of the fittest, knowing that only overwhelming force would be effective with such individuals. To emphasize his point, Fang Yi drove. He drove his blade into the ground before the rival leader. Surrounded by a brilliant golden aura, he coldly commanded them to leave. Frightened by this second display of power, the leader labeled Fang Yi a monster, and he shouted for his men to run, while Fang Yi observed their escape. His teammates hurried over, buzzing with excitement about his remarkable strength. Fang Yi smiled, dismissing it and suggesting that it was time to go. As they departed, Xiaoya reflected on the immense power Fang Yi had displayed, realizing he had been holding back. Convinced that he was a top-tier pioneer, she realized she needed to report this significant discovery to her organization without delay. The scene shifts to the office of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, where a woman on the phone with Xiao expressed her surprise at the emergence of yet another high-attribute pioneer. The office worker became flustered, realizing she had revealed too much, especially with an imposing man standing behind her. She hung up awkwardly after confirming the report. The young woman cheerfully asked her gray-haired superior if they were fortunate enough to have two high-attribute pioneers in succession. He, however, grimly corrected her, stating that luck had nothing to do with it. He explained that every high-attribute individual is poised to become a new center of power, a responsibility that weighed heavily on him. Beneath a bright, sunny sky, Fang Yi has returned to the city. He attempted to disguise himself as a cosplayer, but his commanding presence and genuine sword only attracted more attention. His walk was interrupted when he glanced at his phone. The news of the cave incident had already gone viral. He reprimanded himself for his carelessness, aware that the intensity of his internal flame was too evident. Disregarding the notion that his teammates might betray him, he concentrated on a more pressing issue. The immense yang energy he had absorbed was propelling him toward a significant breakthrough. He urgently sought a secluded spot and made his way to the back mountain. 5 minutes later, on the same mountain, a young woman with silver hair named Su Qingying, a garden restoration expert, sensed a sudden, powerful presence. She witnessed a brilliant flash of light, resembling a miniature sun, and recognized the signs of a cultivator advancing to the 3-star Ghost Axe realm. The magnitude of the energy amazed her. She had never envisioned that a breakthrough of such significance could be so immense. Motivated by a sense of responsibility and a moment of realization, she sprinted toward the commotion, determined to capture the elusive individual this time. High atop the mountain, Fang Yi concentrated on his breakthrough. He drew in vast amounts of golden energy which swirled around him before coalescing into a brilliant, sun-like sphere. Above his head, as he meditated in the air, a complex, star-shaped divine form emerged behind him. Golden energy crackled across his skin, and his eyes shone with immense power as he sought to harness the wild energy. At last, the power coalesced into a massive divine axe, formed from pure golden and light blue energy, crackling with intensity. Meanwhile, Su Qingying arrived and halted abruptly at the astonishing scene before her. In utter disbelief, she observed the mysterious figure preparing to swing the divine axe he had just forged. His control was remarkable. She pondered how anyone could wield such immense spiritual energy with such flawless precision and steadiness, questioning whether this man had been secretly training for centuries. The spectacle left her in awe. A painful memory resurfaced for Su Qingying as she recalled her own attempt to break through to the Ghost Axe 2-star level. The pressure from her divine axe had been overwhelming, causing her to cough up blood and leaving her bedridden for an entire week. Despite her natural strength, she had failed miserably. She couldn't fathom how this monster could manage a breakthrough that was so much more powerful than her own. As she approached, her amazement grew. The immense spiritual energy, the flawless control in every swing of the axe, and the way each ounce of power appeared to be refined countless times, it was all beyond anything she had ever witnessed. She concluded that this individual was not merely an extraordinary monster. He resembled a god descended from the heavens. She also observed his calm and steady approach to tasks. While most pioneers would rush to complete their work when they sensed a breakthrough was imminent, this individual moved with a profound sense of experience and a strong mindset, reminiscent of a master from ancient times. Her thoughts were interrupted as the giant, fiery divine axe began to move. She watched in awe as it swung purposefully to the east. At the height of his power, Fang Yi's eyes glowed with a brilliant golden light, while cracks of raw energy coursed across his face. He floated within a dazzling storm of golden energy, skillfully harnessing the immense power he had accumulated to evolve. A system window then appeared, officially confirming his success. He had attained the Ghost Axe realm, 2 stars. A new divine axe struck the earth with force. It unleashed all its power in a massive shockwave that swept across the mountain. Su Qingying found herself caught in the intense blast and had to brace herself against the surge of golden energy. The residual force carved a wide path through the forest before dissipating, but when she looked up, the mysterious man had vanished completely. Breathing heavily from both exertion and frustration, Su Qingying couldn't believe she had missed him once more, especially since she had arrived in just 30 seconds. A troubling thought crossed her mind. He must have realized she was tracking him. She feared that if he continued to be so elusive, her mission to recruit him would become impossible. Just as she was about to give up, she paused. A sudden idea struck her. She turned her gaze from the path of destruction to a giant old tree, now glowing with a soft, lingering golden light. With a renewed sense of certainty, she called out into the seemingly empty woods, addressing him as senior and asking if he was still nearby. From the shadows of the forest, Fang Yi emerged, his hooded figure exuding a cool confidence. His glowing red eyes locked onto Su Qingying, and he instantly recognized her as the one who had been investigating him for the past few days. Realizing she had been discovered, Su Qingying stood firm and introduced herself. She stated that she was the captain of the Firefly Squad, which is part of the Spiritual Practitioners Association of Sha Nation, and she was also one of the nation's early pioneers. On behalf of the association, she warmly invited him to join them. She confessed that she had been following him for 2 days and hoped her actions hadn't given him a negative impression of her. As she spoke, Fang Yi remained silent, his expression difficult to decipher beneath his hood. Su Qingying. She added that, although the public was unaware, all the official documents for the association were prepared. Inside, however, she felt very nervous, choosing her words carefully and worrying about whether she was bothering him or provoking the powerful man. She understood the importance of sounding gentle and respectful. Unfortunately, her meticulously planned speech was abruptly interrupted by Fang Yi's straightforward, direct question, the Yori Tai. The direct question caught her off guard. She stuttered for a moment, panicking about how to respond. It quickly became clear to her that empty, polite words would be ineffective against someone so intelligent. The truth was her only option. Regaining her composure, she explained the purpose of the association. She told him that the Sha Nation aimed to gather and unite all the early pioneers, guiding them along an organized path while providing additional protection. She understood that growth was chaotic at the moment, and that an association might seem like a cage to a free spirit like him. However, she urged him to consider the bigger picture. A significant resurgence of spiritual energy was approaching, and they would all need to unite to confront the unknown enemies of the future. After hearing her passionate speech, Fang Yi leaned casually against a tree, appearing tired and disinterested. He plainly told her he was unwilling to join, explaining that he still couldn't fully trust her or the association she represented. Su Qingying was left utterly stunned and speechless by his outright refusal, her eyes wide with disbelief. Faced with his refusal, Su Qingying became desperate. She swiftly retrieved her identification card. She held up her jacket for him to see and quickly reintroduced herself as Su Qingying, a former well-known athlete before the return of spiritual energy. She pleaded with him to believe her, hoping that her public identity would inspire his trust. Fang Yi paused to consider her words. He stroked his chin thoughtfully and admitted that he now vaguely recalled her. His mind recalled a framed picture of her celebrating as the runner-up in the SIA Nation's long-distance championship. He recognized that her innate athletic ability was what made her such a fast and skilled pioneer. However, his expression hardened as a dark memory surfaced. Memories from his previous life surfaced, revealing a vision of a devastated city. He recalled that in his original timeline, the efforts of the SIA nations, including the association, ultimately failed, resulting in humanity's demise. Now that he had returned with his system, he understood he needed to contribute to the solution. But joining the association at this moment was not the right choice. Adopting a more contemplative expression, he turned to gaze at the hopeful Su Qingying. He confirmed that he remembered her and mentioned he would consider her offer. Before she could respond, he leaped into the air and swiftly darted away from the spot. Just as quickly, he He suddenly reappeared right behind a startled Su Qingying and laid down a firm condition: she must keep his location a secret for the time being. Observing her respectful demeanor, he speculated that the association was cautious about provoking powerful pioneers who were not aligned with them. He perceived this as a vulnerability he could exploit. Su Qingying proposed a deal. She explained that the association had detected the energy from his breakthrough and that she needed to file a report. To protect his identity while keeping her bosses satisfied, she suggested submitting a report that blended truth with deception. After a moment's reflection, Fang Yi agreed to her plan. Su Qingying attempted to call out to Fang Yi as he agreed to her plan, but in the blink of an eye, he disappeared. She dashed down the mountain slope after him, but it was futile. Exhausted and frustrated, she walked alone along a forest path, grumbling about her repeated failures to catch him and how he was now deliberately evading her. She sighed, lamenting the exhausting task of erasing the powerful energy signatures he left behind after each encounter. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice in her earpiece, urging her to stop worrying about the elusive pioneer and to focus on her mission. The voice solemnly informed her that the strange creatures had returned. Su Qingying froze, her eyes wide with shock as she asked if they were truly back. A terrifying memory surged in her mind, revealing a crowd of wolf-like creatures with bloody mouths and glowing red eyes surrounding her. She knew she would never forget those bizarre, bloodthirsty beasts. The story clarified their nature: cold, malevolent monsters born from the pollution zones created by the resurgence of spiritual energy. They drew power from these zones, transforming into monsters that preyed on humans. Some could even disguise themselves as natural disasters, claiming lives as they fractured the land and created new pollution zones. If left unchecked, their destructive nature would allow them to consume the human world until nothing remained. A severe storm unexpectedly struck the city. The night sky was illuminated not by streetlights but by the relentless, violent flashes of lightning. Rain poured relentlessly, and red alerts flashed on people's phones, warning of the severe thunderstorm and advising everyone to stay indoors. Another alert announced that the Yuhuang mountain area was closed due to flooding risks. From their windows, people remarked that they hadn't witnessed a storm this severe in years, with some joking that a powerful entity might be undergoing a lightning trial nearby. Hidden in a rainy alley, Fang Yi grimly observed the storm, his red eye glowing. He sensed the immense lightning energy in the air, acknowledging its wild power. He understood that this was no ordinary storm, but yet another anomaly. With its power concentrated on a single point, his gaze swept past the city buildings and fixed on a distant mountain peak. He was struck by lightning repeatedly. He had discovered the storm's center. Without hesitation, Fang Yi dashed into the downpour, leaping across rooftops as he hurried toward the mountain. Upon reaching the base of Yuhuang Mountain, Fang Yi's system promptly confirmed the detection of a pollution zone. He gazed up at the peak, but instead of its usual beauty, he was met with a grim sight: skeletal remains scattered among the twisted trees. Another system notice heightened the alarm, indicating that the pollution level was unknown. Nevertheless, Fang Yi pressed on without hesitation. He walked into the dark, stormy woods with a determined expression. As he approached the heart of the storm, he witnessed a massive bolt of blue lightning strike the mountain summit, illuminating the entire area. He had found his target. Inside the command center of the Spiritual Practitioners Association, officials gathered for a tense meeting. A large screen displayed a swirling vortex of blue energy above a mountain peak. An official reported that the danger on Mount Yuhuang was escalating rapidly, prompting the closure of the area and its designation as a new contamination zone. The somber association leader stated that the situation was so critical that he had to withdraw Su Qingying from another important mission. He asked her to provide an update on the situation. Su Qingying informed the officials that climbing the mountain was currently impossible due to the imminent explosion of unstable thunder energy. As a result, the area was officially designated as an A-level contamination zone. She shared more concerning news. Given the rapid increase in energy, the mountain would soon pose an S-level threat, triggering their highest emergency protocol. However, she highlighted a significant issue. According to their data, none of their explorers could safely approach the area, with even she admitting it was beyond her capabilities. A wave of shock swept through the room as calculations indicated that the mission would spell certain death, even for highly advanced explorers. Confronted with this daunting situation, a man in a security uniform ordered the foot of Mount Yuhuang to be entirely sealed off, deploying patrols around the clock to prevent anyone from attempting to climb it. The association leader firmly agreed, stating that they needed to seal off the mountain to eliminate the threat, and that no one should approach it until the energy concentration decreased. Although the association deemed Mount Yuhuang too hazardous, Fang Yi was already deep within the zone, with massive bolts of blue lightning striking down around him. As the storm raged, Fang Yi stood resolute, shielded by a golden aura from his breathing technique. He understood, however, that merely surviving the storm wasn't sufficient. To harness the purest thunder energy, he needed to ascend to the storm's center at the mountain's peak. His decision was driven by haunting memories of the past. He understood that the creatures they confronted were merely the beginning, and even more terrifying monsters would emerge in the future. He recognized that his existing fire-based powers were insufficient for the challenges ahead. He needed to grow stronger on his own, rather than solely depending on his weapon. Amidst the lightning, Fang Yi recognized a rare and perfect opportunity to harness the thunder energy to enhance his own body. Fang Yi understood that if he didn't seize this opportunity to grow stronger, he would inevitably face death from the impending disasters. His eyes glowed with a golden hue. He drew his flaming sword, and with a defiant roar, it plunged directly into a massive bolt of blue lightning. The wild energy coursed through him, causing excruciating pain, but his expression remained resolute. His body trembled violently as electricity surged through him, and he recognized that this thunderous power felt like a divine punishment, actively resisting him. The storm raged fiercely, as if it were demanding his surrender for daring to enter its territory. Gazing at the tumultuous sky, he pondered how he could possibly command such a primal force. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He took a deep breath, centered himself, and recalled his system's rule. To harness power, he needed to connect with the energy source. A golden aura erupted from him as he activated his golden sun breathing technique, resolute in his determination to battle through the storm. With a fierce roar, Fang Yi charged ahead, wielding his flaming sword to slice through navigated through the storm of blue lightning where his golden energy clashed with the wild tempest, resulting in a massive, chaotic explosion. Blood trickled from his mouth due to the strain, yet his eyes burned with determination. He understood that this was a desperate gamble, requiring him to push himself to his limits and confront death in order to survive. After a challenging struggle, he reached the peak and plunged his sword into the ground, cracking the rock as he arrived at the storm's center. Here, the power was even more terrifying. A violent surge of thunder energy that made it difficult to breathe. He sensed the storm's full focus on him and understood that it no longer aimed merely to push him away. It wanted to kill him. To demonstrate its fury, the storm unleashed its full force, striking him with a single massive beam of white-hot lightning and assault intended to obliterate him completely. As Fang Yi confronted the storm's final assault, his system activated, identifying a potent thunder attribute and beginning to process it. Far below in the city, people gazed in awe from a tall building. One man, capturing the moment with his camera, had never witnessed lightning of such magnitude. Another pondered whether a god was undergoing a trial, convinced he glimpsed a figure in the sky. At the mountain's peak, the battle concluded with a dazzling explosion. Fang Yi emerged victorious. A system message confirmed his triumph, announcing that he had acquired refined divine thunder power. He could now summon heavenly lightning, granting his body a godlike quality. In return, he received 5 writing points. Fang Yi now hovered in the air, enveloped by blue lightning and a golden aura. He grasped the extent of his new power. The Thunder attribute was a premier force for both offense and defense. In contrast to his Sun power, which primarily served defensive purposes, the Thunder could refine his body and transform it into intense energy. He concluded that the Thunder had become both his spear and shield. He also recognized that power wasn't solely about destruction. It was also about purification and rebirth. He could sense the energy fortifying his bones and muscles, all without any pain. The system then presented him with an upgrade to punish evil, which would double his critical damage, and inquired if he wanted to spend writing points to obtain it. Landing gently, Fang Yi contemplated his next move. His initial idea was to infuse this newfound thunder power into his Tang sword, and he weighed the decision thoughtfully. Although it would enhance the blade's strength, he was concerned it might compromise the purity of the Sun attribute already present. He also recognized that infusing too many different powers into a single item could damage or even destroy it. Suddenly, a brilliant idea struck him. Gazing at his hand, he resolved to take a different approach. He would directly implant the Thunder attribute into his right hand. The system promptly responded, inquiring if he wished to apply the Thunder attribute to the selected item. A confident smirk spread across his face as he issued the command. In an instant, all the wild blue lightning in the air surged into his right hand as he harnessed the storm's power for himself. The following day, on the storm-damaged peak of Mount Yuhuang, the immediate danger had passed. Below a cliff, Su Qingying and an army officer, Major Han Li, surveyed numerous figures in body bags. Su Qingying reported that the energy in the contamination zone had inexplicably decreased from its most dangerous level to a mild one in just 3 hours, although some electricity still lingered in the air. Major Han Li listened intently and quickly deduced what had occurred. Someone had been present a seeker, an individual who actively searches for these perilous events. Su Qingying was taken aback, questioning whether another seeker was involved and if they might have survived. She knelt down and searched for clues, but sensed nothing. Suspecting that the heavy rain had washed away any evidence, she concluded that the seeker likely left the mountain safely around 8 p.m. the previous night. Major Han Li concurred with her timeline. The unusual event started around 6 p.m., and the army sealed off the mountain at 7 p.m., indicating that the seeker must have ascended before the closure. He observed that their instruments indicated the danger would escalate to grade S. But after 8 p.m., the energy abruptly decreased. Positioned at the site of the most intense lightning, the Major proposed his own theory. He believed the seeker not only survived the lightning strike, but likely possessed a thunder-related power, transforming the disaster into a significant opportunity. He concluded that this individual was the direct cause of the sudden change. The Major then expressed his greatest concern. People like this were the most dangerous because they were uncertain about whose side they were on. Su Qingying concurred, noting that if such a formidable individual posed a threat, the potential disaster could be immense. They needed to locate them swiftly. Miles away, sitting on his couch and oblivious to the military operation now targeting him, Fang Yi suddenly let out a loud sneeze. Back on the mountain, Major Han Li made his decision. He issued a resolute command to his troops: locate this person immediately, at any cost. Upon issuing his command, he assigned the enigmatic target the temporary codename, the Tyrant. The investigation into Yuhuang Mountain began immediately. The army hoped that the Spiritual Practitioners Association would soon recruit the enigmatic individual, codenamed Tyrant. In the meantime, they would keep all information about the incident confidential and initiate their own inquiry. At the Rainy Peak, the association leader informed Major Han Li that they had a high-level pioneer attempting to establish contact. He then turned to Su Qingying and instructed her to present her report to the Major. Su Qingying was taken by surprise by the order and gasped in panic. Under pressure to think quickly, she started her partially truthful report. She linked the current incident to the pioneer who had recently cleared the pollution zone at a nearby university. Inside, she was in a state of panic, fearful that she might say something wrong and expose her arrangement with Feng Yi. She explained that she had been attempting to reach him, but he was elusive. She mentioned discovering the body of a mutated rabbit he had killed and accurately identified his Yang Flame attribute from the evidence. She concluded by promising to do her utmost to get close to him and uncover how he had cleared the university's gate. Silently, she prayed for assistance, aware that blending truth with lies was her only way to make her story believable. Major Han Li listened intently, contemplating the significance of being a pioneer with a Yang Flame attribute. He appeared pleased with her report and expressed his gratitude for her hard work, referring to her as a talented young pioneer. Su Qingyang responded with a crisp salute, stating that it was her duty. After the meeting concluded, Major Han Li stated that they would disseminate false information about natural disasters to keep the event hidden from the public. He also expressed his disapproval of sharing spiritual energy information online, fearing it could fall into the wrong hands. As the officials continued their discussion, Su Qingying let out a quiet sigh of relief, glad that the intense questioning had finally come to an end. Back at home, Feng Yi utilized his golden sun, a breathing technique to effortlessly dry his white hoodie, giving it a warm, glowing appearance. Before holding it up, ensure it is perfectly clean and dry. After putting it on, he examined the changes in his body. Even with the addition of the powerful thunder attribute, he could still sense a distinct difference. He gazed at his right hand, now crackling with blue lightning. It had transformed completely, becoming the strongest part of his body and receiving a significant boost. As he flexed his fingers, small orbs of lightning materialized, and he sensed he was nearing another upgrade. What surprised him most was how the once unruly thunder attribute had settled into a calmness akin to a kitten, allowing him to control it effortlessly. He compared this to the intense pain he experienced when he first unlocked the Yang attribute, and wondered if the energies diminished during the process. Recalling that the system had informed him this new power dealt double damage to strange and evil creatures, he felt eager to test it out. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alert from his phone on the nearby table. He picked it up, curious about what was happening now. After the last incident, he set up special news alerts, understanding that in these unpredictable times, the government would issue warnings to keep people safe. For a pioneer like him, these warnings represented more than mere alerts of danger. In every crisis lay an opportunity for growth, even if it involved risking his life. As Feng Yi contemplated his next steps, he glanced at the major news alert on his phone. The report indicated that a massive explosion had just occurred at a chemical plant, resulting in significant pollution in the city. While the official statement claimed that no one was injured and urged residents to remain calm, Feng Yi was skeptical about such a major incident. He explored online forums where witnesses shared much more terrifying accounts. Residents in the area described an inexplicable, eerie sensation. One person inquired if it was a cold, malevolent aura, and another readily concurred. While some remained skeptical, the prevailing sentiment was one of dread and fear. The phrases, cold and evil aura, resonated with Feng Yi. Suddenly, a terrifying memory from his past resurfaced. A bloody hand and a horrifying monster. He recalled hiding in fear from a giant red creature, a demonic beast as it ravaged everything in its path. The creature, a grotesque, multi-eyed, rat-like monster, was a threat he was all too familiar with. In the present, he appeared serious. He recalled the essence of these creatures, plants or animals that transformed in peculiar ways upon gaining self-awareness. Their power surged uncontrollably, granting them frightening hunting and killing abilities. They thrived in the darkness of night. Recognizing that this new threat was 100 times more dangerous than the mutated rabbit he had faced previously, Feng Yi understood he needed to take action. Clenching his fist, crackling with blue lightning, he resolved to go out that night to prevent these creatures from surviving and growing stronger. As he stood up, he was enveloped in blue electrical energy. It was time, he determined, to test his new 200% critical hit ability in a real battle. On a dark and stormy night, Rain poured down on the deserted city streets. As the traffic light changed, a blur of motion darted across the wet road. A squad of cloaked figures moved with incredible speed. These were the members of the Destroyer Squad, and they were on the hunt. One member reported to headquarters that they were tracking anomaly file number 7, codenamed Candle Night, but had lost the target. The creature was known for its ability to blend into the darkness, making it difficult to track. A squad member added chilling new details to the file. The anomaly emitted a faint sizzling sound when nearby and had a taste for human flesh. As lightning illuminated the sky, the squad landed on a rooftop to survey the city. Their leader, a resolute man with light hair and a scar on his face, understood that the stormy weather was ideal for the creature's hunt. He stated with grim certainty that they could not allow that to occur. Miles away in a bustling command center, an operator received the updated information. He confirmed the new data for File 7, Candle Night, had been submitted. The situation was critical. An extermination request was submitted as a high priority, aiming for resolution within 12 hours. The order arrived from headquarters. The Destroyer Squad was to continue pursuing the target, but their safety remained the top priority. The team promptly resumed the chase. Leaping from rooftop to rooftop across the rainy city, the squad leader paused, studying a glowing holographic map of the city dotted with red markers indicating active anomalies. He understood that a 12-hour response time wasn't ideal, but it was the best headquarters could manage. The country was vast, and anomalies were emerging everywhere, stretching even their advanced resources thin. As the Destroyer Squad approached their target's last known location, a warning came from headquarters. The operator informed them that the area they were entering was currently occupied by agents of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association. A photo of Su Qingying appeared on the screen as the operator explained that her team was monitoring pioneers in the area and could be called upon for assistance. The leader of the Destroyer Squad acknowledged the message and requested headquarters to send for her assistance, mentioning he had heard of her commendable work. Meanwhile, Su Qingying was taken aback to discover her newfound fame. The Destroyer Squad waited somberly in the rain. Soon, Qingying and her cloaked team arrived, taking position on a higher rooftop. With a hand on her hip, she glanced down at the squad below and casually inquired if they were the ones who had called her in for overtime. The leader of the Destroyer Squad was displeased with her casual tone. He firmly reminded her that the Candle Night anomaly consumes people, emphasizing that this situation was far more serious than just a request for overtime. One of Su Qingying's team members retorted, questioning whether that was the appropriate way to seek assistance. Su Qingying then turned to leave, remarking that the Destroyer Squad appeared to be so capable that they likely didn't need assistance after all. She declared that her team, the Ying Squad, would be departing. As they began to walk away, her team members whispered among themselves. One expressed concern about their boss's fierce demeanor, while another defended her, asserting that their own missions were equally perilous. The leader of the Destroyer Squad quickly panicked and urged her to wait. He apologized for his harsh tone and pleaded for her assistance. He explained the grave danger posed by Candle Night and emphasized that without her renowned tracking skills, they would be at a significant disadvantage. He stressed that if his team failed, the city's residents would suffer, as the monster would kill them all. After agreeing to collaborate, the two teams stood on a rainy rooftop, prepared to begin their hunt. Su Qingying focused intently, and a glowing blue orb of energy materialized in her hand. She declared that she had located the creature. The orb's energy expanded, revealing the monster's location. Concealed within the dark, damp ruins of a chemical plant, the monstrous, multi-eyed rat-like creature known as Candlemite was feasting on something. Its file indicated a preference for darkness, moisture, and human flesh. With the target identified, Su Qingying ordered the joint operation to commence. The creature's senses were keen, and it immediately looked up, sensing their presence. It leaped away just as an attack struck the ground where it had been. A member of the Destroyer Squad reported that the target had spotted them and instructed the team to regroup. The squad members moved with remarkable speed. their cloaks blurred as they pursued it. They surrounded the creature from all sides, and with their prey cornered, they shouted in unison, prepared to launch their attack. A member of the destroyer squad lunged forward, shouting the command to attack. He struck the creature forcefully, sending it tumbling into a heap of rubble. Instead of growing weaker, the monster's body started to transform. Its back is erupting with red sores and black spikes. With a furious shriek, the enraged Candle Knight retaliated, conjuring a vortex of dark energy. Su Qingying urgently shouted for the teams to be wary of the sound wave and to dodge. Her warning came just a moment too late. A powerful sonic blast erupted from the creature, hurling the squad members backward. The leader of the destroyer squad was thrown from the rooftop, crashing onto the street below. One of his team members hurried to his side. The leader pushed himself up, bruised but alive. He acknowledged that if he hadn't moved back at the last moment, his bones would have been shattered. He understood they were in serious danger. If the creature remained in the city much longer, it would lead to a catastrophic disaster. The battle shifted once again as Candle Knight transformed. It sprouted large bat-like wings and emitted a roar, its throat illuminated with green energy. It then released a corrosive, dark substance that filled the air with toxic green smoke. The creature directed the blast at the ground, attempting to melt the street so it could burrow underground and escape. One of Su Qingying's team members cautioned her that the monster possessed a corrosive dark power capable of destroying anything it touched. She noted that their team lacked the strength to combat it. However, Su Qingying remained determined. She remained calm and instructed her team to stay vigilant, emphasizing the importance of maintaining the destroyer squad's formation. She reminded them that their primary role was to gather information and assist with strategy. Meanwhile, a member of the destroyer squad readied a dagger to strike at the fleeing creature. Suddenly, a pair of ominous red eyes gleamed from the shadows. The winged Candle Knight lunged forward, just avoiding an attack from a leaping squad member. Furious, the leader of the destroyer squad shouted at his team to prevent the monster from escaping. The winged creature soared through the city streets, pursued by the cloaked members of the Ying squad. From a high rooftop, Su Qingying and two of her teammates observed the chase. Suddenly, she felt a surge of spiritual energy emanating from the creature's direction. Sensing that something significant was about to unfold, she instructed her team to remain outside while she pursued it alone. The pursuit brought them to a vast, dimly lit, abandoned factory. Once inside, Su Qingying mentioned that she would scan the area's spiritual energy. The leader of the destroyer squad noticed the advanced watch on her wrist. She confirmed it was a new device from the association, explaining that the watch indicated the energy level the squad could safely manage was 50. Candle Knight's reading was only 48 when suddenly, the device on her wrist began to flash erratically, and the reading surged past 80. Su Qingying exclaimed that the energy levels were spiraling out of control. Suddenly, a large, shadowy figure with glowing green eyes emerged in the rafters above. They had fallen into a trap. Su Qingying felt a surge of horror as she realized there was more than one creature lurking in the factory. The shadowy, monstrous face of a new creature loomed behind them. The leader of the destroyer squad panicked, shouting that they needed to retreat immediately. Taking charge, Su Qingying proposed a tactical withdrawal. She moved toward the main door, determined to force the hidden enemy to reveal itself. Firing a blast of energy to clear a path, she shouted for her team to follow. But just before they could escape, she cried out in pain and collapsed. Her senses were overwhelmed by an invisible poison gas. Su Qingying suddenly realized she was alone in the expansive green darkness of the factory. She called out to her team, but received no response. She was aware they were close, but the poison had dulled their ability to detect her. As she pieced everything together, the full extent of the trap became clear. Candle Knight had lured them to this factory, the domain of a far more formidable creature, a giant serpent she had only sensed faintly before. As if summoned by her thoughts, the massive, armored head of a shadowy serpent with glowing green eyes loomed above her. She now realized that, Unlike Candle Knight's straightforward dark power, this creature's black mist was a potent poison, and they had been inhaling it since their arrival. Fighting back would only deplete their energy more quickly, resulting in certain death. She could sense that her own spiritual energy was nearly exhausted, and without it, she realized she would soon become just another victim. As she fell to the floor, her strength depleted. She despaired at the terrifying intelligence of a creature that was merely toying with them. She closed her eyes, contemplating whether this was the end. Lying defeated on the factory floor, Su Qingying noticed a single ray of light piercing through the green darkness above. A glimmer of hope shone in her eyes. Suddenly, the factory ceiling collapsed inward, flooding the room with a blinding light. Her eyes widened as a figure descended from the explosion. It was Fang Yi. He landed gracefully among the rubble, his hooded figure contrasting sharply with the glowing hole in the ceiling. He stood before the massive serpent, instantly recognizing it as a creature of dark attributes. Suddenly, the serpent lunged, its enormous fangs directed at him. Simultaneously, the Candle-Cough Night monster emerged from the shadows and launched an attack from behind. Fang Yi evaded the serpent's strike. He came face to face with the growling, rat-like beast. As the two creatures closed in, he finally realized the extent of the trap he had fallen into. In a shocking turn of events, Fang Yi allowed the candle monster to bite his shoulder. As blood splattered, he observed their surprisingly clever tactics. One creature lured prey while the other delivered the kill. He taunted the beast clinging to him, asking if it took pleasure in biting people. In response, he unleashed his newfound power. Bright blue lightning surged from his body as he dared the monster to experience his thunder property. Simultaneously, he unleashed a powerful beam of golden solar energy from his free hand, striking the lunging serpent directly. Now enveloped in crackling electricity and free from the stunned rat creature, Fang Yi focused entirely on the serpent, unleashing a torrent of golden flames to test its ability to withstand fire. The massive serpent lunged with a furious roar, its enormous mouth wide open to devour its prey. With remarkable agility, Fang Yi evaded the attack, flipping through the air as he swung his glowing golden sword. As he landed, he calmly instructed the monster to gaze at his blade, a clear challenge to the colossal beast. The serpent appeared to retreat, wary of the glowing weapon. Seizing his opportunity, Fang Yi launched a counterattack. Leaping into the air, he struck the serpent's face with a powerful slash, his sword enveloped in crackling blue energy from his thunder power. The force of the blow was immense, but the outcome was unexpected. Instead of crushing its skull, the creature's head split down the middle, unveiling a second identical head beneath, as if it were shedding its skin. Fang Yi landed on his feet, his eyes wide with astonishment at this unexpected turn of events. The creature's head split open entirely, shedding its outer layer to reveal its true healed form. Fang Yi felt the green energy pulsing in its neck, signaling that the fight was far from over. The serpent recoiled in shock and pain as the residual thunder energy from Fang Yi's sword coursed through its body. It roared in rage as the electrical energy intensified, overpowering its dark force. As the creature writhed in pain, Fang Yi offered a subtle, confident smirk. He recognized his advantage, having already sensed that the serpent's dark aura was stronger than that of the Candle Knight. He then unveiled his clever plan. When he struck with his sword, he had restrained the full force of his fire. Instead, he used the blade to harness and direct the thunder power from his hand straight into the snake's body. He compared the two creatures and recognized that this serpent was a significantly more dangerous and evolved monster than the Candle Knight. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his shoulder where the rat creature had bitten him. He hissed, glancing down to find strange purple snake scales emerging from the wound. He understood immediately. Just as he had suspected, this was an intelligent, mutated species. Its poison, delivered through its partner's bite, had a paralyzing effect that allowed it to kill silently. He felt a sharp pain radiating from the wound. However, he also sensed his Golden Sun breathing technique actively combating the venom. With a resolute expression, he recognized he had the ideal counter. The Yang flame power could neutralize the poison, while the Golden Sun technique would safeguard and heal his body. Additionally, the Thunder power would purify any remnants. As the energy from his power surged within him, Fang Yi realized the advantage of his combined abilities. The fusion of his Yang flame and Thunder powers now provided him with a distinct pain signal for any poison, serving as an early warning system. He recognized his good fortune. For many, the serpent's stealthy poison would have been incurable. He speculated that the serpent's impressive size was likely due to its reliance on surprise attacks. He recalled the monster's lair, cluttered with the skulls of its victims. With Candle Knight serving as the ideal bait, the two creatures had formed a lethal trap, even for the most skilled pioneers, which accounted for the numerous disappearances. Ultimately, though, it didn't matter. As he observed the massive skeleton of the creature turn to ash in his holy fire, he knew the reign of terror had come to an end. Standing before the fire, Fang Yi felt a sense of satisfaction. His inner flame burned brightly, but it was the triple critical hit from his new Thunder power that secured his victory. He was confident that his fighting skills had improved significantly, even in comparison to other high-level pioneers. He stood silently for a moment, observing the flames consume the remnants of the monster. Just as he was about to leave, he hesitated. He reached out his hand, as if sensing something. His eyes narrowed. He wasn't alone. Someone was still present. He turned just in time to see a figure emerge from the smoke, coughing from the ash. It was Su Qingying. She stood silently, covered in soot and clearly exhausted, but she was alive. As the smoke dissipated, Fang Yi gazed at the unconscious members of the opposing squad, spotting Su Qingying among them. He recognized her as the agent from the association and coolly informed her that there was no need for pretense. He remarked that her playing dead act needed improvement, which took her by surprise. Embarrassed, Su Qingying covered her face, realizing that this was the same formidable pioneer she had been following. She attempted to come up with an excuse, claiming she woke up to the smell. Su Qingying was not fooling Fang Yi. He praised her, noting that while her teammates were exhausted, she had enough strength left to maintain a small reserve for her own protection. If she had truly been unconscious, he explained, she wouldn't have been able to smell anything. Flustered, Su Qingying could only respond with an awkward thank you. In her mind, she was astonished. He had seen right through her. She had indeed retained some spiritual energy for protection. She couldn't fathom how he had defeated both Candle Knight and the giant serpent on his own. Noticing her embarrassment, Fang Yi's tone became gentler. He told her she didn't need to cover her eyes, and that he only wanted her to be honest with him while keeping his identity a secret. Noticing that she and her team were safe, he mentioned it was getting late and that he would be leaving. Su Qingying attempted to call out to him, but it was too late. Claiming that explaining would ruin the surprise, he effortlessly leaped through the hole he had created in the factory ceiling and vanished into the night. As Fang Yi traversed the rooftops, he reflected on the battle. He was relieved that Su Qingying hadn't attempted to absorb the dark power from the monsters, recalling its repulsive coldness. He questioned why he was unable to absorb it himself. He wondered if the dark energy had already dissipated or if his body had instinctively rejected it. He decided to ponder it later at home. Left alone in the vast abandoned factory, Su Qingying gazed up at the moonlit hole in the ceiling where Fang Yi had vanished. She sighed, feeling disappointed that she hadn't caught a clear glimpse of his face and recognizing that he still didn't trust her or the association. Her moment of tranquility was brief. Taking on the role of a squad leader once more, she approached the unconscious captain of the destroyer squad and gave him a few slaps, urging him to wake up. The man groaned as he slowly opened his eyes, feeling bruised and disoriented. His initial reaction was panic. He shot up, shouting that they had been ambushed. Su Qingying simply watched him with a calm expression. The leader and his squad members soon understood why she remained so calm, the massive, smoking skeleton of the giant serpent. They stared in utter disbelief, puzzled by the scene before them. The leader demanded to know what had happened and the source of the potent Yang energy. Su Qingyang calmly explained that a formidable pioneer had come to their rescue. She proceeded with her meticulously prepared report. She explained that the pioneer was likely someone from her original mission, a high-ranking individual with a Yang attribute. Her voice trailed off, implying that his appearance was merely a fortunate coincidence. The other squad members were utterly amazed, with one remarking on how unbelievable it was for a single person to defeat both monsters. Su Qingyang noted that she hadn't been able to recruit him yet, and that he had even managed to track her down, which only added to his air of mystery. Returning to their grim task, the destroyer squad leader inquired about the location. As he employed a green energy technique to cleanse the area, he mentioned the need to gather the remains for the association. As the squads commenced the cleanup, the leader of the destroyer squad utilized a green orb of energy to collect the peculiar, dark remnants left from the battle. As he stepped forward, he inadvertently crushed a piece of debris on the floor, triggering an explosion of bright blue electrical energy. He recoiled in pain, shouting at the intensity of the shock, while Su Qingying watched in astonishment. This new discovery only deepened the mystery. The remains, now identified as belonging to Candle Knight, crackled with residual electricity. The squad leader turned to Su Qingyang, questioning her report. He reminded her that she had stated the pioneer possessed a Yang attribute, yet this remarkably strong electrical power suggested otherwise. The two leaders knelt to examine the electrically charged body. Su Qingying was awestruck by the sheer strength of the residual thunder power, confirming it was indeed high tier. This revelation sparked a new idea for the leader of the destroyer squad. Perhaps two high-level pioneers had emerged, one to slay the serpent and the other to take down Candle Knight, before departing together. Su Qingying recognized that something was amiss. She grappled with how to convey the astonishing truth, recalling the image of the solitary pioneer wielding both crackling blue lightning and roaring golden fire. She understood that no one would believe a single individual could possess two distinct top-level powers. Having even one made you a genius, while having two was nearly unimaginable. The undeniable evidence lay before them, the charred remains of the giant serpent, a testament to the power of a Yang flame walker. The electrified body of Candle Knight unmistakably signified a thunder tyrant. The combined squads could only watch in utter disbelief, questioning what kind of monster this enigmatic pioneer truly was. As reinforcements from the association arrived, Su Qingying felt relieved that she had left her team members outside. Had she stayed inside too long without checking in, they would have reported her missing. She grimly recognized that the rescue team now on the scene had initially been dispatched to recover their bodies. Her two subordinates, who had been incapacitated by the serpent's poison, finally regained consciousness. They rushed to her side, tears of relief streaming down their faces at the sight of their captain still alive. With the threat eliminated, the association's team shifted their focus. Their role transformed from a rescue operation to a forensic investigation. Using advanced scanning technology, they meticulously analyzed the residual spiritual energy, attempting to reconstruct the events for their report back to headquarters. Soon, one of the specialists approached Su Qingying and the leader of the destroyer squad with his findings. He reported that after analyzing all the data from fighting habits to the methods used to kill both monsters, there was a 99% probability that one individual was responsible for their deaths. The two squad leaders exchanged glances, their faces reflecting a mix of shock and deep concern. The other squad members exchanged murmurs of disbelief as they processed the reality that they had been saved by a pioneer wielding two distinct, high-tier power, something they had never imagined possible. They recognized that either monster could have easily slain them all, yet this formidable individual had dispatched both with seemingly single strikes. The disparity in power between them and this enigmatic figure was simply astounding. Recognizing the immense significance of this discovery, Su Qingying reached out to her superior. She reported that the information regarding her target had been substantially updated. As she gazed up at the hole in the ceiling, she realized that the enigmatic pioneer from the university and the formidable figure known as Tyrant were, indeed, the same individual. Back in his office, the association's superior listened attentively to her report. After considering the information, he issued a new command, instructing Shaho. Sue was instructed to pause her mission for now. He explained that the pioneer had saved her team, eliminated the monsters, and secured the area actions that were not those of an enemy. He noted that he and Old Han, Major Han Lee, disagreed on the matter. For her safety and to avoid leaving a negative impression on their potentially powerful ally, she was to cease all contact with the tyrant for the time being. During a phone call with her boss, Su Qingying, despite having agreed to pause her mission, felt compelled to share one more piece of information. She mentioned that she had developed an additional theory based on her observations while tracking Tyrant to the back mountain, where he was consolidating his power. Her boss, intrigued, asked her to elaborate. She explained that during their encounter, she sensed an incredibly strong aura emanating from him. At the time, she suspected he might possess a spiritual weapon, though she considered it unlikely. However, now that it has been confirmed he wields two high-tier powers, that possibility feels much more plausible. The association's superior was taken aback by this new information. He questioned whether the pioneer truly possessed a spiritual weapon. Growing skeptical, he leaned back and remarked that it seemed highly unlikely. He argued that, regardless of talent, a solo pioneer couldn't possibly acquire such a rare item without external assistance. Additionally, he noted that the team had found no evidence of a third spiritual energy, which would typically indicate the presence of a separately crafted spiritual weapon. Su Qingyang promptly corrected him, clarifying an important detail. The spiritual weapon aura she had sensed during their first encounter was unmistakably a Yang attribute. This new information completely altered the situation. The superior's eyes widened as he grasped its significance. If the weapons were at stake, originating directly from the user's own Yang energy, it indicated that he wasn't merely wielding a weapon, he was actually creating it. This realization led to an astonishing conclusion. If he could forge his own spiritual weapons, he must be a cultivator in the spirit creation realm. While such a being could theoretically achieve this independently, that level of power was nearly mythical. Su Qingying was taken aback by this idea, realizing that cultivators of that caliber were exceedingly rare. With barely more than two, the superior then considered an even more terrifying possibility. If this individual possessed a third, distinct attribute, it could shift the balance of power and disrupt the entire pioneer community. He explained that, based on all known research, different attributes tend to clash within the human body, making it nearly impossible for them to coexist. Until now, no pioneer had been confirmed to possess three distinct spiritual attributes. Thus, if the pioneer indeed wielded a spiritual weapon, the absence of a third energy signature could be seen as a positive sign. As the call concluded, the superior was left with a troubling thought. He could only hope that such a formidable pioneer would never turn against humanity. Back at his apartment, Fang Yi stood under a hot shower, thoughtfully washing away the dirt and fatigue from his recent battle. As he dried off, he reflected on the current state of the world. He was aware that there was less than a year until the official spiritual energy revival. Yet dangerous monsters and bizarre occurrences were becoming increasingly frequent. He utilized his Yang attribute to effortlessly dry his clothes, his hand radiating with golden energy, while reflecting on how many pioneers, like him, had already begun cultivating independently. He recalled the aggressive men he had encountered at the lava river, realizing that once the connection between the physical body and the spiritual realm was established, individuals naturally became more attuned to the world's shifts. He acknowledged that even without the country's official endorsement, many self-trained pioneers had already attained the one-star Ghost Axe realm. The government, through agents like Su Qingying, there was now outreach to wild pioneers like him, indicating that both sides were in a relatively peaceful phase of mutual exploration. Standing in his room and reflecting on Major Han Li and Su Qing Ying, he concluded that, for the moment, the monsters remained under control, and serious conflict among the various pioneer groups had yet to arise. As he finished getting dressed, he realized that this peace was fragile. The government had established a Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, but had yet to inform the public. He understood their strategy well. While people focused on local issues and unusual occurrences, the government was treading carefully, aiming to protect humanity while providing subtle warnings to avoid mass panic. Despite his recent successes, Fang Yi's assessment of the global situation remained bleak. He recognized that the issue stemmed from the government's lack of confidence to officially initiate a full-scale cultivation era. Given the population size, he understood that once the complete truth emerged, society would likely descend into chaos and devastation. In the current situation, even the official pioneers couldn't prevent the impending chaos. The combination of internal issues and external threats from monsters would only exacerbate matters. He acknowledged that the government's cautious approach was not misguided, recognizing that human fear and panic could be more destructive than any monster. However, what truly worried him was how things were developing, far exceeding his expectations. He examined the details of the creatures he had just battled. They were a typical result of dark attribute contamination, specifically the shadow attribute sub-branch of dark energy that his system recognized as a natural enemy to pioneers and something he was currently unable to absorb. He realized these monsters were much smarter than ordinary beasts, collaborating to trap and kill pioneers who provided a good food source. He understood, however, that these creatures were still far weaker than the true dark-type monsters he recalled from his previous life, monsters capable of destroying entire countries on their own. Nonetheless, the close call served as a stark reminder of the increasing danger. He was convinced that if he hadn't been present, Su Qingying and her entire squad would have been annihilated. A glimmer of hope flickered within him as he recalled the system's wording, noting that it was only temporarily unabsorbable. He suggested that once specific conditions were fulfilled, he might harness its power himself, a possibility that could be crucial for future victories. He reflected on his current abilities. He now wielded the golden sun-breathing technique of the Yang attribute, the divine thunder tempering of the thunder attribute, and the crimson flame blade technique. Armed with these perfectly suited high-tier techniques and his current strength as a 3-star pioneer, he recognized that few could rival him. However, as he stood amidst his formidable power, he was acutely aware that it was still insufficient. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the ringing of his phone. He picked it up, surprised to see a call from his aunt. On the other end of the line, his aunt inquired about his health before revealing the true purpose of her call. She mentioned that his cousin would be coming to study in the city and, concerned for her safety, asked if she could stay at his place for a few days instead of a hotel. Fang Yi was surprised. His memories of his cousin were quite hazy. All he could remember was a quiet, straight-A student who was deeply focused on her studies. He couldn't even picture her face. Despite this, he agreed, informing his aunt that there was a spare room available. When he inquired about her arrival, she simply replied that she would give his cousin his address and let her come over on her own. In a dimly lit room, illuminated solely by the glow of a computer monitor, a figure with long, claw-like fingers typed rapidly on a keyboard. The person, dressed in a large hoodie with her ears exposed, was wrapping up a phone call with her mother. Her mother, Fang Yi's aunt, informed her that she should reach her cousin's house by tomorrow afternoon and mentioned she would bring some specialty snacks. The person politely concluded the call, assuring her it was no trouble and that she had other matters to attend to. On her screen was a chat window for a group called Spiritual Energy Revival, a martial arts vanguard team. The user had just announced her arrival in the city and her plans to stay at her cousin's house. After ending the call, she clicked her mouse to open a new window. A rumor surfaced about an internet-famous town now dubbed Death Town, where 3 more individuals had disappeared in connection with a pork beast challenge. Accompanying the article was a gruesome, blood-splattered image of the town. With her glasses reflecting the screen, Fang Haizhou pinpointed the town's location, her interest clearly piqued. Her browsing was interrupted when her mother entered the room and asked if she had finished packing. Fang Haizhou replied that she was packed but preferred to stay in a hotel rather than inconvenience her cousin. Her mother insisted it was much safer than being alone and that she completely trusted the cousin. Gently nudging her daughter out the door, her mother offered some final advice: to avoid causing trouble and to help out around the house whenever possible. Fang Haizhou assured her mother that she understood. After closing the door, Fang Haizhou let out a small sigh, bracing herself for the visit. She viewed it as just another hurdle to overcome. Adjusting her glasses with a spark of determination, she resolved that, regardless of her cousin's personality, he couldn't possibly be more challenging than a monster. The following day, beneath a clear blue sky, a young woman with long dark hair and glasses dragged a suitcase toward an apartment building. She checked her phone and confirmed that the map had directed her to the correct destination. As she gazed up at the building, she murmured to herself that this must be the place where she would finally meet the cousin she could barely remember. As Lin Yi stood outside the apartment building, Fang Yi emerged carrying a bag and called out to him, asking if he was her cousin. He paused, surprised, and asked if she was Lin Yi to confirm, though he acknowledged that he didn't recognize her at all. An awkward silence lingered between them for a moment. Later, inside the apartment, they sat on the couch engaging in polite conversation. Fang Yi asked if she was in the city for a summer camp, to which she confirmed. He offered to help her with anything she might need, and she expressed her gratitude. After their brief conversation, he handed her the key to her room, located directly across from his. Before heading to his own room, she watched him leave and felt a sense of relief, believing her cousin was easygoing and unlikely to intrude on her personal space. However, Fang Yi was not oblivious. From the moment she sat down, he sensed a faint yet peculiar presence. He sensed a spiritual aura emanating from her and wondered if his instincts were faulty or if she simply couldn't conceal her power. He quickly suspected that she was also a pioneer. The aura he detected was faint yet distinct, leading him to believe that her story about attending a summer camp was likely a cover for her true purpose in the city. Meanwhile, in her room, Lin Yi was on her phone, validating Fang Yi's suspicions. She messaged her pioneer group, the martial arts vanguard team, noting that her cousin seemed nice and wouldn't interfere. The conversation shifted to recent events, with members discussing the powerful pioneer at the lava river. Lin Yi cautioned her team to remain vigilant, as many strong individuals were still lurking in the shadows. After they agreed to wait for her signal, she logged off. Concerned that her cousin might uncover her secret, she decided it was best to refrain from any cultivation for the time being. 3 days went by, and Fang Yi quickly realized that living with his cousin was hindering his cultivation. His meditations were frequently interrupted, especially when she emerged from the bathroom wrapped only in a towel. He was also concerned that the bright golden aura from his breathing technique was too noticeable and would be impossible to conceal. But the most challenging aspect was her boundless kindness. One evening, she proudly presented him with a beautifully prepared dinner she had made. He insisted on doing the dishes, but she declined, stating it was the least she could do. He found her meticulous cleanliness both perfect and somewhat strange. Despite the difficulties, Fang Yi chose to go along with it. He believed that by allowing her to be overly helpful, he might be able to get her to lower her guard. He knew this was the only way to discover what she was truly up to. Their peaceful dinner was disrupted when her phone on the table started to vibrate. Both cousins exchanged surprised glances at the message for a brief moment. Fang Yi seized the opportunity to excuse himself, stating that he would head to his room while she chatted. His cousin could only respond quietly as he walked away. Left alone, she gazed thoughtfully after him for a moment before turning to her phone. Sitting on her bed, she answered the call, her expression shifting to one of seriousness. She relayed the information she received, confirming that the significant change in heaven and earth would occur again the following day at 3 in the afternoon, and she assured them she would be there. Fang Yi easily overheard his cousin's phone conversation. She agreed to meet at the entrance of Yanggo Town, a well-known internet-famous destination in the suburbs, roughly an hour's drive away. With his suspicions validated, he observed her through the wall, his own spiritual energy surging. He was now convinced that his cousin was also a pioneer. Nevertheless, he felt confident that, given her current strength, she wouldn't be able to detect him spying. He was impressed by her strength. Although she was still just a middle school student, she had already reached the 2-star Ghost Axe realm and was nearing another breakthrough. He pondered whether her remarkable natural talent contributed to her somewhat eccentric personality. Now, he grasped her true purpose in the city. The summer camp was merely a cover. She had learned about the impending great transformation of heaven and earth and had come to be at its center. He recognized that each of these significant changes presented an opportunity to adopt new techniques to enhance his own strength. He pondered what kind of power would emerge this time, but ultimately, it didn't matter. With a resolute expression, he resolved to seize any power that emerged for himself. In her room, his cousin suddenly stopped, sensing something unusual. She glanced around, questioning whether it was merely her imagination or someone was watching her. Gazing at the moonlit mountains outside, she brushed aside her feelings and continued with her preparations. The following day, the town of Yangguo was alive with activity, with its mountains in the background. At the entrance to the town, Lin Yi ran into a friend from her pioneer group, who playfully teased her about asking if he was handsome. Yi responded that he was a good person, though just an ordinary-looking guy. Her friend let out a disappointed sigh. At that moment, another woman from their group arrived, a redhead in a purple dress. She reminded the first friend that Yi had always claimed to be just an ordinary person. With the rest of their team present, the redhead declared it was time to get down to business. One of the male members asked if a particular woman was not coming. The redhead confirmed that it would only be the 6 of them. Noting that the absent member was always shrouded in mystery, unbeknownst to them, Fang Yi observed from a nearby cafe balcony, his sword resting beside him. He observed that his cousin's small group appeared to be quite low-key. From his position, he could sense their strength. The weakest among them was at the 2-star Ghost Axe level, while the man who had spoken was even a 3-star Ghost Axe level. He also overheard them mention that their team was typically stronger, with one key member often absent. As he sat watching, his gaze was drawn to the mountains that towered over the town. His eyes narrowed with anticipation, sensing that the real event was about to unfold here. High in the mountains, the profound transformation of heaven and earth finally occurred. A massive green vine descended from the clouds, resembling the beanstalk from a fairy tale. This peculiar phenomenon occurred randomly and was non-destructive, yet for pioneers, it served as a crucial clue to understanding the changes in their world. Deep within the misty mountains, Lin Yi and her squad finally beheld an incredible sight. The red-haired leader gazed up in awe, realizing that this was exactly what they had been searching for. The group stood in disbelief before the massive, pulsing vine, but their awe soon shifted to fear. The group's adventurous friend suddenly turned pale, and she urged the others to stop, insisting they shouldn't go any further. Trembling with dread, she spoke. She explained that witnessing the vine in person filled her with dread. The leader then inquired if they had come across the rumors on their internal pioneer forums. Her friend's fears stemmed from a chilling tale. She recounted how she knew some of the pioneers from a team that had attempted to reach the vine during its last appearance. They were formidable, far stronger than she was, yet they all faced a tragic fate. She explained that after they arrived, they were all buried, their skeletons now twisted within the roots of a dark version of the vine. Overwhelmed by terror, she grasped her head in panic. She admitted she had a sense that they would all share the same fate. As she spoke, the group surrounding shifted dramatically. They were no longer on a mountain path, but trapped in a horrifying, pulsating red cavern, the ground a grotesque mass of organic tendrils. The vision of their demise had been a chilling premonition. Meanwhile, on the misty mountain path, their adventurous friend scammed in an online romance felt a deep sense of dread. She admitted that while she had been ready to risk it all for wealth or death, encountering the vine filled her with overwhelming fear. Her instincts warned her that this was a new, unknown, and formidable high-level monster, a mutation she couldn't confront. Tears welled in her eyes as she expressed her fear of dying here and her desire to retreat. The red-haired leader and Lin Yi exchanged glances with their distressed teammate, both understanding the shared heaviness they had all felt from the vine. Lin Yi elaborated, describing a profound emptiness within the wood-type vine. It was an unsettling sensation, as if time had consumed all life, leaving only an empty shell behind. She explained that this was the source of their fear. The group reached a chilling conclusion. The vine was attempting to devour their life force. Just as the anxious friend was on the verge of panicking, Lin Yi took her hand. Her face radiated fierce determination as she declared that this was the path of the martial pioneer path that demanded they confront such dangers head-on. Unnoticed by the group, Fang Yi observed from a nearby cliff. He, too, could feel the oppressive, suffocating energy of death emanating from the giant vine. He remarked that among all the monsters he had encountered, this vine, aside from those with a pure dark attribute, evoked the worst feeling in him. He had to admit, the small squad showed remarkable courage in considering cultivation in such a perilous location. He examined the monster more closely. Although it was clearly a plant, a symbol of life, it felt utterly lifeless. It wasn't truly alive. Rather, it was a dead entity masquerading as something living, devoid of any spiritual energy. He could see it was stained with the blood and remnants of its past victims. Reunited with her team, Lin Yi took the lead. Standing at the edge of a cliff, she addressed her squad with renewed determination. She emphasized the urgency of their situation and proposed a new strategy. They would carefully attune themselves to the energy in the surrounding area. Observing the monster from a safe distance, confident in her strategy, Lin Yi believed that by detecting the monster's energy from afar, her team would remain safe. She settled into a high spot in a tree and began to meditate, enveloping herself in a protective bubble of blue spiritual energy. From a distant cliff top, Fang Yi observed them. He was impressed by their caution, noting that they had selected a distance that was both safe and conducive to cultivation. He credited his top student cousin for accurately determining the optimal range, a balance that was neither overly reckless nor too cautious. As Yi Yi's cultivation advanced, the spiritual energy surrounding her began to surge. Fang Yi watched in surprise, realizing she was on the verge of a breakthrough to the 3-star Ghost Axe realm. He felt genuinely impressed. His cousin was truly talented. In a brilliant flash of blue light, she successfully broke through. Her teammates looked on in awe, astonished that she had already attained such a high level of power. However, the massive energy disturbance from her breakthrough did not go unnoticed. Deep within the forest, the dormant roots of the giant vine began to twist and emit an eerie green glow. The pioneers felt the ground tremble, and one of the men glanced back in alarm. The entire group panicked as the monstrous vine advanced toward them, its tendrils erupting from the ground. The team's leader was astonished that the creature could have sensed them from such a distance. The vine's assault was swift and savage. Vicious green tendrils erupted from the ground, ensnaring 2 of the male pioneers. The remaining squad members fled in terror as their friends cried out for them to escape, warning that if they didn't act quickly, they would all perish there. The team's leader quickly identified the cause of the disaster. Yi Yi's breakthrough had created too much disturbance, drawing the monster's attention. As she shouted a warning, dark green tendrils began to encircle Yi's protective bubble, which was still shielding her while she recovered from her breakthrough. The leader understood they couldn't afford to be caught. Once the vine ensnared them, its deadly aura would consume them instantly. Under the immense pressure, Yi Yi's energy shield started to fracture. Chaos erupted as the red-haired leader attempted to drag her panicked friend to safety. The friend screamed that they couldn't abandon Yi, but the leader in desperation asked what she was supposed to do. Furiously, she questioned whether she should sacrifice her own precious spiritual energy to protect Yi, effectively risking her life so her teammate could level up. As chaos unfolded around them, The red-haired leader attempted to soothe one of her male teammates, who insisted they abandon Lin Yi to save themselves. He coldly stated that life and death were matters of fate, and if they didn't leave immediately, they would all perish with her. He reminded her that they were merely strangers brought together by chance, and that she was being overly emotional. This cold, pragmatic perspective only fueled the leader's anger further. She pushed him aside. She shouted that she would not abandon her teammate, even if it meant opposing the others. From his vantage point on the clifftop, Feng Yi observed the scene below. He realized that his cousin, still a student, was likely oblivious to the dangers she faced while remaining vulnerable in her meditative state. The vine's power was immense, and he doubted whether he could save her with his current strength. However, he knew he had to act quickly, as the tendrils were already beginning to crush her protective barrier. He clenched his fist, a golden aura radiating around him. He had promised his aunt he would take care of her, and a promise made must be honored. The red-haired leader sprang into action, leaping through the grasping vines to reach Yi Yi. She delivered a powerful kick to one of the tendrils, shattering it with the force of her strike. However, her victory was short-lived. Dozens of additional vines surged forth, encircling her and ensnaring her completely. Just as the vines were about to engulf her, Yi Yi's protective shield finally shattered. However, before the monstrous plant could seize its new victims, Feng Yi entered the scene, leaping into the air as he unleashed 2 arcs of brilliant golden energy from his sword. The rest of Yi Yi's squad could only watch in horror, screaming her name as they witnessed her shield shatter. A massive, fiery blast of energy, shaped like a phoenix, shot down from the sky, striking the mass of vines with explosive force. Feng Yi landed gracefully in the newly cleared area. A small pillar of golden flame rose from the ground where he stood, having saved both his cousin and her brave leader just in time. As Feng Yi floated in a radiant aura of golden light, his mere presence was enough to overpower the deadly vine. The surviving members of the pioneer squad watched in stunned silence as the monstrous plant, which had been moments away from killing them all, halted its attack and began to retreat from the overwhelming Yan energy. The tendrils recoiled from the blinding light, hissing and disintegrating as they withdrew. As Feng Yi descended, enveloped in a radiant glow, the pioneers shielded their eyes from the blinding light, struggling to comprehend what was unfolding. The practical male pioneer who had proposed leaving Yi Yi was utterly shocked, wondering if this newcomer was yet another pioneer. The red-haired leader, equally taken aback, understood the power for what it truly was, the purest manifestation of the Yang attribute. She realized that only a high-tier power of this caliber could potentially repel such a formidable, life-draining monster. The male pioneer experienced a crisis of confidence. He had always considered himself exceptionally talented, having achieved the 3-star Ghost Axe realm in a remarkably short time, a feat that few in the country could match. He recognized that even the skilled Lin Yi's abilities barely matched his own, yet this mysterious stranger was on an entirely different level. He glanced at his hands before looking up at the glowing figure on the clifftop, feeling utterly insignificant. If pioneers like that existed, he wondered, what exactly were they? The newcomer hadn't merely defeated him, he had outmatched everyone with his sheer, overwhelming power. As Feng Yi stood illuminated by the golden light of his strength, his system activated. It detected the extreme wood attribute from the deathly vine and initiated the auto-writing process, swiftly completing a new technique. The system window displayed the details of his new ability, Endless Vitality. This technique could instantly absorb all nearby life force to rapidly heal injuries. As the power of the vine surged into him, he was enveloped in a wave of green, life-giving energy. He marveled at the remarkable wood attribute technique he had just acquired, realizing that as long as there was life around him, he essentially possessed a continuous energy-absorbing engine. As Feng Yi absorbed the final remnants of the anomaly's power, his system effectively extracted the vine's primary attribute. A notification confirmed it. Extracted attribute, Desolation. The system detailed its terrifying power, the ability to instantly generate a desolate aura that would annihilate all surrounding life. Feng Yi stood calmly amidst the swirling green energy, fully absorbing the new power. When he opened his eyes, they shimmered with the same vibrant green as the barren vine. He stood in the now lifeless clearing, surrounded by a faint green aura. He finally understood why the vine could only thrive in such a perilous, remote location. If it thrived anywhere else, it would siphon every ounce of life for miles around. He reflected on the merciless nature of the desolation attribute, a formidable force that forcibly drained the life energy of others. His thoughts were interrupted by a voice filled with gratitude. The red-haired leader of the pioneer group approached him. Her clothes were torn, and her body was bruised, but she was alive. She expressed her deep gratitude, stating that without him, they would all be dead. Then, she inquired how they could possibly repay him for saving their lives. Feng Yi casually waved her off, coolly stating that there was no need and that they would meet again someday. He then turned and walked away. Yet in his mind, he didn't feel like a hero. He realized that he had only discovered this opportunity thanks to their information. In his view, he was the one who had gained from the situation. As for the conflict he observed among the pioneers, he felt no concern. With one final leap, he propelled himself into the air, leaving the stunned squad behind. He understood that a person's true character reveals itself in a crisis, and a disorganized team like theirs would struggle to survive in this perilous new era. In the empty clearing, the adventurous girl and the shaggy-haired man stood together. Still in shock, the girl wondered aloud what they should do next. The man, however, responded with a bitter, accusatory tone, asking if she now regretted her earlier hesitation to save their teammates. With the immediate threat eliminated and Lin Yi now at the third tier, the red-haired leader recognized that their best strategy was to stay united. After some time, Yi's eyes opened, glowing a brilliant blue as she emerged from her meditation. Her teammates hurried to her side, relieved that she was finally awake. The male pioneer who had previously suggested abandoning her now stated that their fate relied on their leader's wisdom. However, another teammate argued that their attention should be directed toward the mysterious stranger who had rescued them. Still confused, Yi inquired about what had happened. She noticed her other teammates lying unconscious on the ground. She stood up and was instantly struck by the intense, burning warmth of a residual yang attribute from a nearby tree. Even from a distance, she could feel its searing heat. The shaggy-haired man stepped forward, ready to explain what had occurred while she was unconscious. Later that day, back in front of her cousin's apartment, Yi was still grappling with the extraordinary events that had unfolded. She couldn't believe that someone so powerful truly existed. Her teammate's words echoed in her mind. He had referred to the enigmatic pioneer as a monster. He described how the vines that couldn't even scratch him were effortlessly pushed back by his power, and how the massive beanstalk had retreated high into the sky, no longer daring to approach them. The man's overwhelming presence, even in his absence, was palpable. She recognized that although he was long gone, the vine remained calm, a testament to his enduring power. She opened the apartment door and was surprised to find Feng Yi there to greet her. He gazed at her with concern, observing that she appeared somewhat pale. Yi quickly composed herself, forcing a smile as she dismissed his concern, attributing her fatigue to a long day of studying. Feng Yi accepted her excuse, telling her she had worked hard and deserved to rest. He offered to order takeout for dinner, and she agreed before heading to her room. Once inside, she fell onto her bed, utterly exhausted. She understood that breakthroughs were mentally exhausting, demanding intense concentration. She felt more fatigued than if she had stayed awake for an entire month. Lying on her bed and scrolling through her phone, she experienced a sense of relief. She was no longer just an ordinary person. She wouldn't perish from a few sleepless nights. She accepted that this relentless, life-threatening struggle was the destiny of a pioneer in a world undergoing transformation. She reflected on her cousin's seemingly normal and peaceful life, realizing that such a life was no longer attainable for her. Her quiet reflections were interrupted by a new message in her Pioneer group chat. It came from a user named Jaeolin, the enigmatic and influential member who was often absent. Jaeolin sent a straightforward message. If there are any further sightings of that strongman, please let me know. This was Jaeolin's first contribution to the group, and it quickly caught Yi's attention. She responded in agreement, and then posed her own question to the group, asking if they believed the man who had saved them could be the same one involved in the Dark River Lava Dragon incident, and if so, why he would have chosen to help them. The group chat quickly erupted with a post about the enigmatic high-tier Yang Attribute Master. The post vividly detailed his sun-splitting slash, recounting how a witness had been driven out of the cave by a surge of blinding light. The author confidently asserted that no other pioneer in Sia country could rival his strength, and cautioned everyone to steer clear if they ever encountered him. Meanwhile, Fang Yi was riding his bicycle out for the evening. He was confident that after the day's events, his cousin would have lowered her guard around him, allowing him to come and go without raising her suspicions. With his newfound freedom, he set out on a new mission to find a suitable vessel for his desolation attribute. Aware that this power was most compatible with plants, he ventured into the night to begin his search. As Fang Yi rode through the night, he contemplated the best way to harness his newly acquired desolation attribute. He understood that, despite its power, it fundamentally represented destruction and decay. He was concerned that applying it to his own body could result in adverse reactions. Additionally, he feared that its malevolent nature might clash with the purifying power of his thunder attribute. He concluded that the best solution would be to find a carrier for the attribute, similar to the peculiar vine itself. He speculated that the original vine monster had emerged when an ordinary plant detected the resurgence of rich spiritual energy and chose to evolve, creating the desolation attribute as a means to harness greater power. With this in mind, a plan started to take shape. Wearing a confident smirk, he knew precisely where he needed to go. He walked along a moonlit road, following a sign that directed him toward the forest park. He arrived at the expansive urban park, parked his bike, and ventured into the woods. Beneath the bright, full moon, he strolled through a field of vibrant, glowing flowers. He understood that he needed to discover the perfect, lucky Wanna plant that could forge the strongest connection with his spiritual energy and evoke a sense of closeness. He closed his eyes and concentrated, extending his spiritual energy. A vibrant green aura emanated from him, spreading through the forest and enveloping the plants. He sensed a response from the plants, a wave of their spiritual energy rising to meet his. He observed that although their response was substantial, it still fell short of what he required. As Fang Yi continued to channel his spiritual energy, he recognized the need for a much stronger reaction from the surrounding plants. Suddenly, he halted, his gaze fixed on a particular spot in the forest. In the tall grass, a solitary white flower with a luminous center swayed gently, as if beckoning to him. He pondered whether this was the one he had been seeking. He approached it cautiously and extended his finger. As his fingertip made contact, the flower's petals enveloped it, and he sensed it drawing in the spiritual energy he was emitting. The flower then bloomed once more, appearing content, as if it had just enjoyed a satisfying meal. Fang Yi knelt beside the flower, a small smile on his face as he observed its vibrant energy. Although it was merely a plant, it responded to his touch like an eager puppy, eagerly consuming his spiritual energy and then rubbing against his fingers for more. He realized he had found his carrier. Among all the flora in the forest, this small flower reacted most strongly to his aura, making it the ideal vessel for the desolation attribute. He addressed the flower, asking if it was ready. Without waiting for a response, he unleashed a vortex of green spiritual energy, directing it entirely toward the small white flower. A system window popped up, requesting confirmation. Do you want to forcibly implant the desolation attribute into this plant? With his eyes shining a vibrant green, he nodded in agreement. A brilliant light burst from his hand as the flower began to transform, its petals unfolding into a larger, more intricate form. The implantation process concluded with a brilliant flash of green light. Fang Yi was momentarily taken aback by the sudden surge of power. The small, simple white flower had transformed entirely. Its petals had unfurled into a stunning lotus-like bloom, and its leaves had become thick and vibrant, all of it radiating a vibrant green aura. The newly empowered flower quickly began to exert its influence. It unleashed a tremendous wave of desolation energy, with its roots burrowing into the ground as it absorbed power. The effect was immediate and devastating. The lush, vibrant forest surrounding Fang Yi lost its vitality within seconds, with trees wilting and the ground turning to dust. He was astonished by the sheer, malevolent force of the desolation attribute. Within moments, the energy had consumed an entire section of the forest and continued to spread rapidly. As the flower's light began to dim and its form shrank, Fang Yi realized he had to leave. If he allowed the process to continue, the significant energy disturbance would undoubtedly attract the attention of the Spiritual Energy Association. He bent down and carefully pulled the glowing flower from the ground, roots and all. He understood that this park was a risky location for such an experiment. Being so close to the city center, it was certainly under the watchful eye of the association, which was concerned about how the revival of spiritual energy could transform even ordinary plants into potential threats. He had observed the increased number of security cameras and the absence of other people in the park upon his arrival. As he walked away with his new prize, he noticed something remarkable. The flower was still absorbing energy from the air, thriving even without its roots connected to the earth. He examined it more closely, a smile of wonder spreading across his face. He found it magical that its spirituality had remained intact since being uprooted, especially considering it had been just an ordinary wildflower moments before he selected it. This realization sparked his thoughts about its evolutionary potential, setting it on a path to becoming something far greater than it was ever meant to be. Just as Fang Yi was about to exit the park, a loud alarm echoed through the forest. Its red light flashing as a robotic voice issued a stern warning. Abnormal value exceeded. Fang Yi quickly realized that despite his efforts to be discreet, he had triggered the park's monitoring system. Without wasting a moment, he seized his newly acquired desolation flower. Miles away in a high-tech control room marked as the Spiritual Energy Revival Plant Research Department, alarms blared incessantly. Technicians rushed about, shouting that the anomaly value was skyrocketing and demanding to know what was happening. An urgent order was issued. All staff were to don their protective bracelets, enter the park, and immediately cordon off the area to prevent anyone from entering or leaving. A team clad in full protective gear ventured into the now desolate section of the forest. One member glanced at the reading on his wrist device, which displayed a dangerously high value of 30. He remarked that this was alarmingly excessive. In comparison, the incident at Qing University was rated between 8 and 10, while even the formidable Dark River lava dragon reached a peak of 25. Another team member noted that the park's original spiritual energy level had never exceeded 10. While one researcher collected a soil sample, another noted something unusual. The air humidity, surface temperature, and sunlight were all perfectly normal. However, every plant in the area appeared to have been drained of life within seconds. The team leader concluded that they needed to move closer to the center to understand what kind of spiritual attribute could have triggered such an event. However, as one of the members stepped forward, another researcher, wearing glasses and appearing to be a senior member, shouted at him to stop and not get involved. He warned them with a serious tone not to touch anything, identifying the residual energy as the desolation attribute. He then inquired if any of them were aware of the vine that had recently descended from the sky. The younger researchers were left speechless. One of them eventually found his voice, slowly realizing with mounting dread that the senior researcher was discussing the notorious devil-like vine, which had already been classified as an A-level mutation. The senior researcher validated their concerns, standing before a haunting image of the vine, with the souls of its victims ensnared at its base. He revealed the source of its terrifying power. The reason it was so lethal, the reason it had claimed so many pioneers, lay in its natural desolation attribute, a potent parasitic ability that siphoned the life force from all nearby creatures, making everything it touched its own. The young researcher, on the verge of entering the area, clutched his chest, sweating and gasping in fear. He expressed his gratitude to his superior, recognizing that he had just been spared from certain death. The senior researcher clarified that the region surrounding any plant that had activated the desolation attribute was a dead zone, where anyone who entered would have their life force consumed. He recalled seeing information about another similar plant in Zia, country, a decaying ancient tree in a forbidden area of Wan City that instantly obliterated any life that approached it. They surveyed the barren clearing with deep concern, recognizing that the mutation of plants in this new era was impossible to overlook. According to their knowledge, the desolation attribute was the most powerful a plant could awaken, and now, alongside the ancient tree and the celestial vine, a third had emerged. His lecture was interrupted when someone clapped him on the shoulder. The research team turned in surprise to find Major Han Lee, his stern expression unmistakable, accompanied by his own group of soldiers. The major had already been informed about the situation. He instructed all the researchers on site to don the advanced protective suits that his team had brought, and to accompany him into the contaminated area. Under the leadership of Major Han Lee, the newly equipped team, now accompanied by Su Qingying, stepped confidently into the dead zone. As they advanced with their scanners, they encountered a series of perplexing discoveries. They were unable to locate the source of the desolation energy, and the aura was rapidly diminishing, having dropped to 25 within just a few minutes of their arrival. This contradicted their understanding of the celestial vine, which was believed to be capable of movement. Major Han Li turned to Su Qingying, proposing they examine the area more thoroughly. She agreed, her expression solemn. As Major Han Li and Su Qingying commenced their investigation, two team members with glowing blue auras began tracing the remnants of the spiritual energy. The energy trails guided them from the outskirts of the dead zone to a single starting point. As they approached, they halted, their faces etched with shock. The Major and Su Qingying simultaneously grasped the horrifying truth. The source of the desolation energy had been unearthed and removed. A researcher in a protective suit was astonished by what he heard, struggling to comprehend how such a feat could be possible. Major Han Li understood that if someone genuinely possessed the ability to infiltrate a desolation dead zone and extract its source, identifying them was of utmost importance. Su Qingying, however, had a different theory. She presented a glowing data pad to the Major, explaining that after conducting a comprehensive data analysis, I had identified an individual whose movements corresponded with both this incident and a recent mutation. The file displayed a picture of Fang Yi, with his name clearly visible. At that moment, Major Li informed Su Qingying that he would send her all the information on Fang Yi, confirming that he was likely the same pioneer she had been in contact with. With that, he tipped his hat and remarked that the rest was up to her association to manage. Left alone in the desolate woods, Su Qingying clutched the datapad, her expression reflecting a grim understanding. 2 hours later, back in his apartment, Fang Yi gently placed his new desolation flower into a small pot. He smiled, realizing this was his first time nurturing a flower. He affectionately named it the obedient little white flower and assured it that, with its newfound desolation attribute, it would cultivate itself and become a powerful ally for him. He recognized that its unique, life-draining powers would be invaluable in battle, and its unassuming appearance would provide excellent camouflage, allowing it to be easily concealed from his cousin. As he delicately brushed a petal, he realized that in this perilous new world, raw power was only one piece of the puzzle. The true key to victory lay in possessing more hidden weapons. Fang Yi's peaceful evening was disrupted by the buzzing of his phone on the table. He picked up the phone, surprised to see the caller ID, Old Wang. He instantly recognized the name of his childhood friend, Wan Liang, whom he hadn't seen in 3 years since joining the army. A brief flashback revealed the two as close friends during their school days, a bond that was shattered when Wang Liang unexpectedly announced his decision to enlist. Fang Yi picked up the phone. On the other end, Wang Liang's cheerful voice welcomed him, inquiring if he was back in town and inviting him for a drink at their old hangout. Fang Yi was surprised by how abrupt everything felt. Wang Liang chuckled and mentioned that he had a big secret to share, advising him not to be shocked when he heard it. However, the seemingly friendly reunion was actually a carefully orchestrated setup. After ending the call, it was revealed that Wang Liang was not alone. He sat in a dimly lit room reporting to a tough, heavily scarred woman with long red hair, dressed in a high-ranking military uniform. Su Jingyang was also present at the table. Wang Liang confirmed to the officer that he had followed the instructions given to him. He then made a special request, asking for assurance of his safety if Fang Yi turned out not to be the person they were seeking. The red-haired officer tapped her fingers impatiently on the table. She coldly dismissed his concerns, instructing him to focus solely on his mission and avoid any unnecessary actions. With a chilling lack of empathy, she added that if Fang Yi turned out to be the wrong person, Wang Liang should view it as a punishment for his friend. In a quiet bar, Fang Yi and Wang Liang raised their beer glasses in a toast. They sat together, drinking and catching up after 3 years apart. Fang Yi observed that his old friend appeared much more mature and suspected that his time in the army had been challenging. Wang Liang shared his military experiences before inquiring about Fang Yi's well-being. Fang Yi replied briefly, stating he was doing well and had started college. As he sipped his beer, memories of his past life flooded back. During that tumultuous period, he never had the opportunity to see Wang Liang again. He recalled that his friend, a soldier, had likely perished in some forgotten battle. He wondered if, in this new life, he could alter his old friend's fate. Wang Liang shifted the topic, adopting a more serious tone. He asked Fang Yi if he had noticed anything unusual lately, such as zombies or movie monsters. Fang Yi immediately became cautious. While it wasn't unusual for someone in the army to be aware of the spiritual energy revival, the direct question felt like a test of his knowledge. Feigning ignorance, Fang Yi inquired about what he meant. Wang Liang sighed and clarified that he wasn't trying to comfort Fang Yi, but rather to warn him. He explained that soon everything they valued, education, wealth, and status, would become meaningless. The entire world order was on the brink of transformation. Fang Yi listened intently, his expression blank as he gazed at his empty glass. He understood that ordinary soldiers were bound by secrecy and couldn't disclose any details about the spiritual energy revival. This confirmed his suspicions. The military had marked him as a target, and his childhood friend Wang Liang had been sent to assess him. Wang Liang, noticing his friend's silence, attempted to reassure him. He urged him not to worry, assuring him that as long as he kept quiet, he would be safe. However, Fang Yi grasped the situation. Despite his feigned ignorance, he recognized that his friend was genuinely trying to help. Even at the risk of violating military regulations, Wang Liang was kindly cautioning him to be wary of the impending changes. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted when Wang Liang's phone started vibrating urgently. He answered the call, and a furious voice on the other end commanded him to return to his team immediately and report to the target location within 10 minutes. Wang Liang snapped to attention, accepting the order while Fang Yi observed in silence. He quickly stood up, apologized to Fang Yi, and explained that he had an urgent mission and couldn't accompany him home. Just as his friend was about to leave, Fang Yi dropped his facade. He inquired whether the mission was connected to the revival of spiritual energy and urged his friend to take him along. Wang Liang paused and turned back to Fang Yi, his expression a blend of shock and confusion. Fang Yi stood up and grabbed his friend by the collar, insisting that Wang Liang take him to see his superiors. He made it clear that he was aware of the true reason for their meeting. Reassuring his friend, he added that, although he wasn't sure what his superiors knew, he trusted that Wang Liang would never harm him. He explained that he was more interested in the military's challenges, recognizing they were likely connected to the significant changes occurring in the world. Since the Spiritual Energy Association was already managing the monsters, he was curious about the military's role and wanted to witness it firsthand. Wang Liang agreed, and the two of them headed toward a massive, heavily guarded military base nestled in a mountain valley, designated as Military Number 19, Spiritual Forbidden Zone. As they approached, Fang Yi was amazed by the intense density of spiritual energy in the area. He observed that the concentration was so elevated it had likely exceeded that of a typical pollution zone. Upon their arrival, a squad of soldiers instructed Wang Liang to return to his team. After a brief inspection, the soldiers permitted Fang Yi to enter the base, guiding him through a brightly lit corridor. Inside the military base, Fang Yi and Wang Liang were escorted into a vast, cavernous training ground. A large group of soldiers was engaged in a desperate battle, wielding crackling blue energy to fend off a monstrous, spiky black creature with a single glowing red eye. The beast retaliated with fierce strength, unleashing a devastating beam of red energy that sliced through the soldiers' ranks, eliciting cries of pain and fear. Standing on a raised platform, the tough, red-haired officer observed the scene with a critical eye. Fang Yi, brought before her, quickly recognized the creature's power as a combination of two distinct attributes. The officer confirmed his suspicions, stating that the monster was a perfect blend of dark and flame attributes, making it exceptionally fierce and cruel. She noted that it had already severely injured several of her soldiers. A caption identified her as Ji Ruyan, a 3-star officer in the Ghost Axe realm. Upon spotting Wang Liang, she called out his name, and he instantly stood at attention. Furiously, she demanded to know why he had brought an unauthorized person into a restricted area, but before he could respond, she interrupted him. Her expression softened slightly as she urged him to forget it, explaining that the situation was urgent and they needed him to join the formation right away. She then shifted her focus to Fang Yi. Finding nothing remarkable about him, she noted that his spiritual energy was only faintly active. For a moment, she questioned whether he could be the powerful pioneer they sought, but quickly dismissed the idea, reminding herself to concentrate on the battle. She issued him a stern warning. As he was a friend of Wang Liang, she kept her remarks brief, but emphasized that he was in a restricted area and that his safety was now his own responsibility. He was also bound to secrecy regarding anything he might witness. Fang Yi simply replied that he understood. With that accomplished, Ji Ruyan took charge. She lifted a massive energy cannon and called out the names of 2 of her soldiers. The 2 men sprang into action, their bodies enveloped in blue energy as they engaged the monster up close. Ji Ruyan aimed her cannon and unleashed a powerful blast of pure energy at the creature. The creature was far from defeated. It let out an enraged roar as its shadowy form pulsed with a menacing red light, its fanged mouth expanding ominously. It was evident that the attack had only intensified its fury, worsening its mutation. The furious monster struck out with its enormous claws, prompting one soldier to shout a warning to his comrade. The other soldier successfully blocked the attack, but the impact of the blow propelled him backward. Ji Ruyan quickly took command, instructing her team to remain vigilant and maintain their distance. She understood the urgency of defeating the creature before it could complete its evolution. From the sidelines, Fang Yi was struck by the soldiers' performance. He observed a well-trained team of comrades who had complete trust in one another, demonstrating remarkable discipline and coordination. He understood that each individual was vital, and when they collaborated, they could harness a strength far beyond their individual capabilities. This thought, however, was quickly interrupted when he realized the monster's power was increasing at an alarming rate. I shouted at them to run, warning them that they stood no chance against the creature in its current state. However, his warning was drowned out by the chaos. The monster unleashed a powerful blast of dark purple energy, sending the soldiers tumbling. Ji Ruyan stood firm. She instructed her team to increase their alert level and elevate the mutation status of the restricted area. With a furious roar, she ordered everyone to stand their ground. But it was too late. The monster had fully transformed into a massive demonic beast, engulfed in black and red flames, its eyes radiating pure malevolence. A soldier shouted a terrified warning. The evil creature had completely merged with the dark attribute, finalizing its mutation. The creature's solitary eye had transformed into a blazing red orb. It focused on a new target, locking its gaze on Wang Liang, who could only stare back, paralyzed by fear. As the monster readied to attack, Ji Ruoyan and Feng Yi both gasped in horror, suddenly realizing that Wang Liang was in grave danger. As the monster completed its evolution and lunged forward with a surge of power, a soldier was violently thrown backward by the force of the energy. Ruoyan quickly called her team's attention, announcing that the sea-level evil dog had fully mutated and was now reclassified as a B-level threat, necessitating an immediate adjustment to their battle plan. The soldier who had been knocked to the ground coughed up a spray of blood. Feng Yi hurried to his side, catching him and asking if he was okay. The injured soldier explained that he had attempted to send spiritual energy to the monster's restraining collar, but the creature's evolution had caused the device to explode violently. Despite coughing up a thick black liquid, the soldier attempted to remain brave, reassuring Feng Yi not to worry about the officers in Restricted Area 19. Feng Yi could only watch with a grim, angry expression. Realizing her usual weapons were now ineffective, Ji Ruoyan dropped her heavy energy cannon to the ground. She stood before her remaining troops, her resolve unwavering. With urgency, she issued a final, desperate command. Regardless of the cost, even if it meant risking their lives, they could not allow this B-level mutation to escape the restricted zone. Just as she and her team were preparing for their final stand, Feng Yi stepped directly in front of her, blocking her path. Ji Ruoyan demanded to know what he thought he was doing, but he ignored her. His eyes and hands started to radiate a brilliant blue light, while arcs of raw lightning crackled around him, a clear indication that he was preparing to join the battle himself. Surrounded by crackling blue lightning, Feng Yi taunted the monstrous creature, his eyes glowing with power as he challenged its toughness. He charged toward the mutated beast, his arm a bolt of bright blue energy aimed directly at it. The impact was tremendous, as a powerful explosion of divine thunder erupted upon contact, completely overwhelming the monster. The immense force of the attack generated a powerful shock, a wave that knocked the nearby soldiers backward. One of the soldiers, astonished, remarked that he couldn't believe it, realizing this was the same B-level monster that even their commander, Ji Ruoyan, couldn't defeat on his own. Wang Liang, equally shocked, turned to Ji Ruoyan and asked if his friend was truly who they believed him to be. With a serious expression, she confirmed that they were not mistaken. She declared that he was, without a doubt, the pioneer known as the Tyrant. Feng Yi stood calmly before the beast, which was still ablaze but clearly injured from the lightning. Noticing it wasn't fully defeated, he realized he needed to complete the task. He then instructed Ji Ruoyan and Wang Liang to step back for their safety. Ji Ruoyan observed him, reflecting on how her entire squad required a complex strategy to confront a B-level threat, while he was preparing to tackle it alone. She pondered the extent of his power. She had to acknowledge that his mastery of the Thunder attribute was the most extreme she had ever encountered. Even now, he ranked among the top-tier pioneers in the entire country, and she couldn't help but speculate about his potential once the spiritual energy revival was in full swing. As Feng Yi lifted his hand, he gathered even more electrical energy. A look of shock crossed Ji Ruoyan's face. She glanced up to see a massive storm of thunder energy brewing in the sky above him, and she couldn't help but wonder how terrifying his power would grow as he continued to evolve. Taking one last step forward, Feng Yi unleashed the full force of his thunder attribute. A massive pillar of bright blue lightning erupted from the ground beneath the monster, showcasing a display of power that truly lived up to his code name, the Tyrant. His eyes, still crackling with residual electricity, reflected a calm determination as the blinding light from his attack began to diminish. The surviving soldiers watched in horror. One remarked to another that the sight made his entire body tremble. While he could withstand the monster's corrosive dark power, the sheer, destructive force of the thunder was on an entirely different level. Once the dust settled, Feng Yi casually gave a thumbs up to his friend, declaring that the threat had passed. Wang Liang rushed over, exclaiming with relief that Feng Yi had nearly scared him to death. Overjoyed, Wang Liang playfully punched his friend on the shoulder, laughing as he remarked that he never expected his old buddy to be so strong. The mood shifted when Wang Liang apologized, confessing that he had suspected Fang Yi was a pioneer but had to follow orders. Fang Yi dismissed it, asking why his friend was being so formal after 3 years apart, and assuring him that he understood. Their reunion was cut short when Ji Ruoyan approached them. She formally expressed her gratitude to Fang Yi for his assistance, extending her hand as a gesture of respect. Fang Yi accepted her thanks with a faint smile. He shook her hand and replied that it was no trouble, emphasizing that he had primarily acted to help his friend. She then formally introduced herself as Ji Ruoyan, the warden of Forbidden Area 019. She explained that since he had saved the entire base, she needed to file a proper report and asked if he would be willing to provide his contact information. Fan Yi agreed without hesitation, while Wan Wang observed from the side, silently amazed by the unusual sight of his tough, commanding officer showing such respect to his childhood friend. Once the formalities were completed, Ji Ruoyan made a straightforward and serious proposal. She stated that Fang Yi's strength surpassed that of many of the military's own special pioneers and formally invited him to join the army. However, she acknowledged that an invitation from a single base warden like herself was likely insufficient to persuade him. Internally, she struggled to comprehend the vast extent of his power. What astonished her most was the realization that he was also a 3-star Ghost Axe realm cultivator, just like her. Yet his abilities had surpassed the known limits of that realm, rendering him a formidable monster of extraordinary strength. Fang Yi calmly asked Ji Ruoyan if she genuinely believed she was unworthy of inviting him. Under the weight of her superior's authority, she affirmed his statement. She stated there was nothing to deny. She explained that the order to involve him had come from high command and was confident they would invite him personally in the future. Fang Yi chuckled softly, assuring her that formality wasn't needed. He placed a hand on his chest and expressed his genuine respect for all of them, acknowledging that not everyone has the courage to sacrifice themselves for others. He confessed that he had never witnessed soldiers in combat before, and what he had just experienced had profoundly moved him. Moved by his sincerity, Ji Ruoyan could only respond with a quiet thank you. He then made his own offer. He told her that if they ever encountered trouble in the future, they could reach out to him for help, just as they had for ordinary people like him in the past. However, he added one important condition. They could not interfere with his personal cultivation or restrict his freedom. Ji Ruoyan was momentarily stunned by his unexpected proposal. Once their business was concluded, Fang Yi announced that it was getting late and that he should be leaving. Ji Ruoyan agreed, mentioning that she and Wang Liang still needed to dispose of the mutated creature's body, and she would arrange for someone to take him back. As Fang Yi stood before the soldiers, he finally grasped the military's true purpose in this new era. He recognized that they had positioned themselves in these perilous, spiritually rich areas for 2 key reasons: to harness the energy for their own training, and more importantly, to serve as a vital line of defense between the ordinary world and the strange monsters that now threatened it. Once he had left, Ji Ruoyan turned to Wang Liang and remarked that her friend could no longer be defined by a simple word like impressive. She understood that what they had witnessed that day was merely a glimpse of his true strength. The rapid rise of a pioneer to such a high level of power demonstrated his remarkable insight. She concluded that he was a rare combination of luck, courage, and innate talent, all essential ingredients for greatness. Noticing his commander's deep respect for his friend, Wang Liang eagerly suggested that if she felt she wasn't the right person to recruit him, she should allow him, as his childhood friend, to take on the task, the job. However, Ji Ruoyan quickly snapped him back to reality with a sharp tap on the head, instructing him to stop talking and help her clean up. He could only agree as he reluctantly got to work. Later that night, back at his apartment, Fang Yi meditated on the... He stood on the roof, enveloped in a radiant golden aura. Reflecting on his meeting with the military, he realized that although the trip had exposed his identity, he had only revealed his thunder attribute. concealing his other powers. Given their respectful demeanor, he concluded that this was likely a positive development. He now realized that his unique thunder attribute was an ideal counter to the dark monsters the military was battling, making him a highly valuable asset. He understood they would attempt to recruit him rather than threaten him, providing him access to the quickest paths for gaining strength and the most advanced information. The day's events had also clarified the distinct roles of the nation's two primary pioneer forces. The military, represented by Ji Royan, served as the Night Watchers, the nation's hidden protectors. Meanwhile, the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, with agents like Su Qingying, managed the threats that infiltrated the cities. He prioritized the protection of civilian life as much as possible. He grasped the government's two-part strategy, utilizing the forbidden zones to contain the most significant threats, while gradually informing the public about the impending changes. This cautious approach was buying precious time and preventing society from descending into chaos. As he continued to meditate, a radiant orb of golden energy pulsed at his core. He observed that even though he was absorbing the rich energy of the forbidden zone, he initially didn't feel an urgent need to level up. However, that feeling soon changed as golden energy surged through him. Cracks of power spread across his face as he felt the energy surge within him. Even a brief stay in such a spiritually rich place had filled him to the brim. He recognized the signs right away. He was on the brink of another breakthrough. Meanwhile, on the streets below, his cousin Lin Yi was making her way home with groceries. She wondered if he had returned yet. If he was home, she thought she could have him try her cooking. Her casual thoughts were abruptly interrupted when she looked up and saw a massive pillar of golden light shooting into the night sky from the direction of her apartment building. Her eyes widened in surprise and concern. A reflection of a blazing divine axe flickered in her eye as she sensed the powerful energy of a ghost axe realm advancement, but quickly realized she was mistaken. The immense power, manifesting as a colossal fiery divine axe in the sky, was far too terrifying for a typical breakthrough. She could only gaze in disbelief, questioning whether another formidable pioneer was making their move in the city. On the street below, Lin Yi gazed at the sky in utter disbelief. She acknowledged the immense power of the Ghost Axe realm, but this was something entirely different, a force, so potent it seemed to exist on its own. As a colossal divine hand crafted from pure golden energy materialized in the clouds above, she came to a chilling realization. This was the power of the legendary spirit creation realm. The knowledge that a pioneer of such immense strength was living right beside her filled her with shock and fear. The massive energy surge did not go unnoticed. Miles away in a high command center, red alarms blared as technicians rushed to respond. An urgent warning flashed across their screens. The anomaly value had reached a catastrophic level of 99, pinpointed to the southeast of the city. An official in Su Qingying reacted with alarm. The official demanded to know what was happening and ordered all units to the target area. Su Qingying pondered how such a powerful anomaly could have gone undetected, noting that an energy reading of this magnitude could destroy an entire city. Before a holographic map of the city, military leaders convened for a tense emergency meeting. They debated two alarming possibilities. Either a new, godlike spirit creation pioneer had emerged, or the city was on the verge of a catastrophic disaster. One grim-faced officer proposed that it could very well be both. The situation intensified as the senior official urgently contacted headquarters, insisting they send all advanced equipment, except for large-scale weapons. His panic was abruptly halted when a subordinate rushed into the room, breathlessly declaring that the alert had been canceled. The anomaly was identified not as a monster, but as a pioneer receiving a promotion. Back on the rooftop, the blinding golden light dimmed as Feng Yi exhaled a quiet breath of relief. The breakthrough was complete. He casually remarked that he had successfully attained the one-star spirit creation realm. While his body felt lighter and more agile, he didn't notice a significant change in his raw power. His peaceful moment was disrupted by a buzz from his phone, signaling a new message. Feng Yi received a warning from his friend, Wang Liang, about a new anomaly at Chingcheng University's playground. Military sources confirmed it was a pollution zone and the second occurrence of this anomaly. Fong Yi acknowledged the previous heat anomaly, and Wang Liang playfully reminded him to keep his source secret. However, when Fong Yi jokingly threatened to report him, Wang Liang's tone turned serious. He expressed real concern for Fong Yi's safety and urged him to be cautious. Fong Yi set his phone aside, a thoughtful expression on his face. His friend's warning only reinforced his own strategy. This was precisely why he was cautious in his dealings with both the military and the association. He understood that being too well known could attract unwanted trouble, which is why he had intentionally kept his powerful Yang Flame attribute and Crimson Flame Blade technique a secret. They were his hidden advantages. He sent a final message to his friend, reassuring him not to worry. He promised to be careful and mentioned that he still had a few trump cards up his sleeve. Lin Yi opened the apartment door and announced her return. Noticing Fong Yi on the couch, she asked if he had eaten yet and offered him the bag of takeout she had brought. Distracted by his phone, he merely replied to leave it on the table, saying he would get to it later. As she observed him, a look of worry and mild frustration crossed her face. She reflected on her cousin's character, viewing him as a fundamentally good person, albeit with one significant flaw: his laziness. He appeared content to spend all day at home playing on his phone, showing no interest in attending college. She found it ironic that while she and her fellow pioneers were always busy, in search of opportunities and identities, her cousin led a carefree, seemingly aimless life. Exhausted, she retreated to her room and collapsed onto her bed. She realized that news of the remarkable spirit creation pioneer who had just emerged in their district would spread like wildfire. Driven by a sense of duty, she decided that when the moment arrived, she would protect her seemingly oblivious cousin as a way to repay him. Meanwhile, Fong Yi was not merely playing on his phone. He was analyzing a news report from Wang Liang that depicted a massive, raging fire at the university playground. He observed that the initial anomaly had been intense heat, and now it had escalated to a fire. He pondered whether this was yet another manifestation of the Yang attribute. The video revealed that the fire ignited rapidly and burned with alarming intensity. Online comments from witnesses reflected their shock, with some questioning whether special forces were being deployed for routine fires. The report also noted that all nearby trees and flower beds had been scorched, and the area was now entirely secured. Fong Yi noted that the video was brief and ended abruptly, yet it was evident that this situation was far more serious than the earlier incident at the university. He pondered what might be different about this new Yang attribute. Recognizing the need for an in-person investigation, he understood that accessing the sealed-off area would require reaching out to his new military acquaintance, Ji Ruoyan. The following day, a throng of reporters gathered outside the sealed gates of Chingcheng University, obstructed by a line of soldiers. They shouted questions, seeking confirmation about the rumors of an uncontrollable fire, and insisted on understanding why such a significant incident was not being covered in the news. As the reporters sought answers, Ji Ruoyan and Fong Yi arrived, drawing the crowd's attention. People speculated about the identities of these two imposing figures as the soldiers promptly opened the gates. This allowed them to pass through without question. The reporters were puzzled about how they had gained entry so easily after being completely blocked. Within the cordoned-off area, they gazed at the smoldering remnants of the university playground. Fong Yi commented on the immense destructive force, wondering if this was the sky fire he had heard about. Ji Ruoyan confirmed that was indeed its official name. She described its terrifying nature. It appeared without warning, was impossible to extinguish, and could only be left to burn itself out until everything it desired was reduced to ash. The name, she suggested, was quite fitting. After finishing the initial look, Ji Ruoyan informed Fong Yi that she needed to go to the principal's office and asked if he could wait for her. He replied that she should go ahead, assuring her he would be fine waiting. Fong Yi walked alone along the perimeter of the devastated area, now cordoned off with yellow tape. He knelt and touched the scorched earth, examining the scene. He observed that the ground was already cold and, more importantly, that no residual spiritual energy remained from the skyfire. He felt a twinge of disappointment as he realized this meant he couldn't collect its attribute. His plan had been overly simplistic. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted by a familiar voice calling his name. He looked up to see his ex-girlfriend, Chu-Ching Lee, standing on the nearby steps with a friend. She expressed surprise and asked what he was doing there. Her friend with glasses quickly recognized his name and asked Chu-Ching Lee if he was the ex-boyfriend she had mentioned, the one who had only attended a vocational college. Chu-Ching Lee confirmed it was indeed him. The friend patted Chu-Ching Lee's shoulder with a smug, condescending smile. She told Fong Yi that she understood he was probably there because he was still hung up on his ex. But given the significant gap between their lives, he should just let go. Fong Yi could only respond, genuinely confused by her assumption, questioning the notion that he would be hung up on her. From a distance, other students began to gossip about the scene. They speculated about the identity of the guy with the campus beauty, Chu-Ching Lee, assuming he was just another heartbroken suitor. They remarked that he didn't appear to be a student from their university and expressed frustration over how security could have allowed an outsider in. Chu-Ching Lee's friend with glasses stepped forward, confronting Fong Yi aggressively. She informed him that Chu-Ching Lee was now the university's campus belle and urged him to reconsider his actions. She warned him that many guys far better than him were pursuing her and that he didn't even measure up. She commanded him to leave, stating that he didn't even measure up. She then threatened to report him to the disciplinary office if he couldn't explain how he got in. Meanwhile, Chu-Ching Lee observed him with a complex expression. She recalled his assertion that he wouldn't regret their breakup, yet here he was. She concluded that his earlier indifference had likely been an act, and that he was merely putting on a brave front. Their confrontation was interrupted when Ji Royan returned and asked Fong Yi if the girl was his friend. Chu-Ching Lee was taken aback by the sudden appearance of the imposing red-haired woman. Fong Yi calmly dismissed the notion, clarifying that they were merely high school classmates and not friends. Ji Royan accepted his explanation, agreeing that they were just classmates. Ji Royan then donned a pair of sunglasses, her already formidable presence becoming even more intense. Both Chu-Ching Lee and her friend were clearly nervous in the presence of the woman's commanding aura, questioning who she was and how she could possibly know someone like Fong Yi. Ji Royan then turned to Fong Yi to provide an update. She explained that she had spoken with the principal and that the situation regarding the skyfire was more complex than they had initially believed. She informed him that the principal would be coming to take them to the fire's origin, and since Fong Yi was now a special military consultant, his presence was necessary. Fong Yi agreed without hesitation. At that moment, a group of stern officials in suits arrived, commanding everyone to disperse and declaring that the playground would remain sealed off. Chu-Ching Lee gasped in disbelief, recognizing the man at the forefront of the group as the university's principal. The other students were equally astonished. The principal was known to be an incredibly busy and elusive figure rarely seen on campus. They were filled with awe as they realized he had come personally to meet with Fong Yi and the enigmatic red-haired woman. Chu-Ching Lee's friend, however, completely misinterpreted the situation. She smirked, believing the principal had finally come to address the two individuals who shouldn't be there. Meanwhile, Chu-Ching Lee stayed silent, her expression reflecting uncertainty. To the utter astonishment of Chu-Ching Lee and her friend, the principal and his group did not regard Fong Yi and Ji Royan as trespassers. Instead, the elderly principal approached Fong Yi directly and greeted him with a warm, respectful handshake. He referred to Fong Yi as the consultant introduced by Ji Royan and expressed his concerns about the recent issues at the school and the safety of the students. He conveyed his immense relief that they had come to address the situation. In an even more impressive gesture, the principal bowed slightly to Fong Yi, officially placing him in charge of the entire playground situation. From her vantage point, Chu-Ching Lee could only watch in disbelief as her entire perception of her ex-boyfriend crumbled in an instant. The principal's security quickly moved to secure the area, creating a human barrier and instructing onlookers to step back. As the crowd of students, including Tu Ching Li, was pushed away, they buzzed with confusion, unable to comprehend why their respected principal was bowing to someone so young. Amidst the crowd, Tu Ching Li listened as the students' opinion shifted around her. They now speculated that Fong Yi must possess some extraordinary identity to warrant such treatment. Someone noted that just moments earlier, he had been dismissed as merely Tu Ching Li's suitor or ex-boyfriend. Another person noted the complete reversal of status, suggesting that now, even if she were to pursue him, she might not even be able to capture his attention. The final, harsh realization hit her as the crowd observed that throughout the entire interaction, the young man had not once glanced at or acknowledged the campus Belle, leaving her standing alone and entirely overlooked. At Ching University's North District, the principal guided Fong Yi and Ji Royan to the location of the anomaly. He recounted the sequence of events, beginning with the Golden Sun incident, which he had hoped would mark the end of their troubles. However, a few nights ago, a fire erupted on a playground so intense that even the fire department struggled to extinguish it. He was grateful it occurred at night when no students were present, enabling them to swiftly secure the area. The principal continued, his expression becoming more serious. While one fire might have been a coincidence, it was soon followed by blazes on 2 additional playgrounds. He recounted witnessing a crimson flame descend from the sky and hover in midair, a clear indication of a supernatural occurrence. He informed them that although the other fires had been extinguished, one still persisted. As they approached the final location, Fong Yi noticed a sharp, suffocating odor of something burning. They arrived at a basketball court where a single hoop blazed with an unquenchable flame. The principal confirmed that this was the starting point, the one fire that could never be extinguished. As they observed the phenomenon, Ji Royan glanced at the device on her wrist, which displayed a reading of 11. She explained to Fong Yi that it was a basic spiritual anomaly detector, noting that any reading above 10 indicated a disaster for ordinary people and necessitated a complete lockdown. Suddenly, the device started to flash and beep erratically, with the reading spiking to 60. Ji Royan raised an alarm about the dangerously high value. In a panic, she warned the principal that if the energy continued to escalate, it would impact not just the university but the entire city. She insisted that they urgently dispatch an elite squad of pioneers to address the threat. Before they could execute the plan, Fong Yi took matters into his own hands. Without a word, he jumped over the chain-link fence, disregarding the no-entry sign, and charged directly into the fire. Instantly engulfed by the intense flames, he left Ji Royan and the principal in shock. At that precise moment, the reading on Ji Royan's device surged once more, displaying an astonishing 110. She exclaimed that the anomaly had just been upgraded to S level. The principal, in a panic, asked what they should do now that Fong Yi was inside. Ji Royan could only gaze into the fire, reflecting on his recklessness and murmuring that even the bravest soldier from the Forbidden Zone wouldn't venture into such a perilous area alone. Amidst the fire, Fong Yi stood completely unharmed, his silhouette serene against the raging flames. He understood that, just as his Yang attribute had safeguarded him from the divine thunder, it could also protect him from this sky fire. However, he quickly identified a significant issue. While his power shielded him, it also prevented him from making contact with the source flame, which meant he couldn't activate his system's ability to develop a new technique. Recognizing that his protective aura was both beneficial and obstructive, Fong Yi realized he had to reach the source flame. He observed as the fire coiled around the basketball hoop like a massive fiery dragon, understanding that he needed to reach its core. Without hesitation, he braced himself to confront the flames as the fierce dragon lunged at him with a thunderous roar. In a highly risky decision, he intentionally disabled his Golden Sun protective aura, rendering himself completely vulnerable. The sky fire surged in an instant, enveloping his body in a tempest of raw, searing energy. He gritted his teeth against the searing pain of the flames, but he pushed his hand forward, resolute in his determination to touch the anomaly's core. His confirmation indicated that it had detected a strong fluctuation in the sky fire attribute. Despite the pain, A determined grin spread across his face. He was in awe of the Skyfire's power, realizing its will was even stronger than the desolation attribute he had recently acquired. With fierce resolve, he declared that he would absorb this power at any cost. The system initiated its final calculation, successfully compiling the updated data. With a triumphant smirk, he realized he had succeeded. A new system window appeared, announcing his reward. He had acquired the Skyfire attribute technique, the Nine Dragons Skyfire Sealing Art, a power meant to eradicate evil and seal all demons. As he mastered this new ability, the once untamed flames transformed into extensions of his will, coiling around his arm like a docile dragon. The system confirmed that the compiled technique is now unlocked and ready for immediate use. As he concentrated his will, he initiated the final process of extracting the Skyfire attribute itself, capturing its essence directly into his essence. His eyes glowed with a fierce red light as fiery markings emerged on his face, a physical manifestation of his new power. With his hands clasped in a seal and his gaze radiating red energy, he readied himself to unleash his newfound ability. He called out the name of the Nine Dragons Skyfire Sealing Art. As Fang Yi unleashed his newfound power, massive, glowing red chains burst from his back, lashing out into the flames. Outside the fence, Ji Royan and the principal watched in awe. Ji Royan quickly recognized the energy signature as a sealing aura. She recalled witnessing a high-level military pioneer seal a forbidden land previously. Although their methods differed, the powerful sealing aura was undeniably similar. With a single command to shrink, Fang Yi ordered the chains to retract. They drew inward with tremendous force, collecting all the wild Skyfire and compressing it into a single, tightly bound orb of pure energy. Suspended in the air, Fang Yi grasped the chained ball of fire. The sealing process is now complete. The sealed orb of fire gently floated back down toward the basketball hoop. Fang Yi landed gracefully and explained the situation to the principal and Ji Royan. He mentioned that he had temporarily contained the Skyfire and advised them not to unseal the playground or allow anyone near it for repairs. This, he clarified, would help prevent the fire from spreading further. The principal readily agreed, assuring him that the playground would remain sealed and noting that it wasn't an issue since the university had 7 or 8 others. Ji Royan, however, observed Fang Yi with a silent, intense gaze, her expression difficult to decipher. The principal, clearly impressed, commented on Fang Yi's performance and offered any additional assistance he might need. However, Ji Royan interrupted, stating that she needed to speak with Fang Yi about a few matters. The principal cheerfully excused himself, leaving the two of them alone. Once he left, Ji Royan turned to Fang Yi, her tone direct and serious. She remarked that he had been concealing his true abilities quite effectively. Fang Yi attempted to downplay it casually, acknowledging that the Skyfire was indeed powerful and challenging, but she saw right through his facade. With a piercing gaze, she told him to stop pretending, making it clear that she wasn't referring to the fire, but to his remarkable talent and immense power. Ji Royan ceased her intense questioning, acknowledging that it was common for pioneers to have secrets, particularly someone as powerful as him. Fang Yi listened quietly, maintaining a calm demeanor. Her tone shifted to one of seriousness and sincerity. She acknowledged that she had no right to ask anything of him, yet she hoped he would listen attentively. She depicted a bleak future marked by chaos, a time of significant change when the Sha Nation would urgently require top-tier talents like him. She clarified his potential by explaining that once his spiritual energy was fully restored, someone with his abilities would be as significant as a modern nuclear weapon. She cautioned him that every major power, from the military's restricted zones to the Spiritual Energy Association, would compete to recruit him. She advised him to be ready for high-ranking officials to personally extend invitations with remarkably generous offers. She acknowledged that she had her own motives for sharing this. If he joined her military unit, it would be a significant advantage, and they would gain a formidable ally. Thus, She encouraged him to begin considering his options now to avoid being caught off guard when the time arrived. Fang Yi paused for a moment before posing a curious question. He wondered why both she and Wang Liang appeared so reluctant to recruit him for their own forbidden zone, almost as if they believed he wasn't worthy. Ji Royan explained that it was due to another legendary military faction, a group so incredibly powerful that she believed he would be much more inclined to join them instead. A small smirk crossed Fang Yi's face as he confirmed whether she was referring to a top-level unit. She confirmed this was true, although she admitted she hadn't seen them much herself. She had heard they were extremely busy lately, to the point that even officers from other military regions were feeling the pressure of their activities. Shifting the topic, she proposed they stop talking and head out, as the principal had invited them to dine at the university cafeteria. As they walked, Fang Yi quietly reflected that even the nation's most powerful forces were grappling with significant challenges. His mind raced with the implications. Ji Ryan's words suggested that terrifying anomalies, possessing power far beyond what current pioneers could handle, had already begun to emerge. He understood that the pioneers confronting these threats would include realm cultivators like himself, and possibly even those who were stronger. A new sense of urgency enveloped him. He sensed that the day of the full spiritual energy revival was rapidly approaching, yet his preparations were still insufficient. His thoughts shifted back to the immediate task at hand, how to best utilize the Skyfire attribute he had just acquired. He analyzed its nature, an irregular, wild, and all-consuming flame that left nothing behind. He recognized it would be the ideal weapon against anomalies capable of endless reproduction or regeneration. Suddenly, an idea came to him. The wild and powerful nature of the Skyfire perfectly complemented his Crimson Flame Blade technique. He envisioned infusing his sword with this new power, recognizing it as an extraordinary enhancement to his fighting style. To test his newfound powers, Fang Yi heads to the back mountain, a location he frequently uses for training. Upon his arrival, he is taken aback to see a large sign blocking the path, warning that the mountain is dangerous and entry is prohibited. He wonders who could have put it there. He knows there haven't been any monsters in the area, and he doubts the military would have located his training spots so quickly. He concludes that the only group familiar with his habits and capable of doing him such a favor is the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association. He recognizes that they have provided him with this space as a private training ground to win his favor. With a smile, he chooses to accept their gesture. However, his thoughts are interrupted as his keen senses detect an unwelcome presence. He realizes that an intruder has managed to sneak onto the mountain. Fang Yi detects a familiar aura, reminiscent of the one he encountered at the factory, though not as intense. Concealed among the trees, a monstrous monkey-like creature with glowing red eyes observes him. Fang Yi observes that the beast appears intelligent. It hesitates and assesses his strength rather than attacking recklessly. With his sword already radiating energy, he realizes it's the ideal moment to demonstrate his power. A system window appears before him, inquiring whether he wants to infuse his Tang sword with the newly acquired Skyfire attribute. The system describes Skyfire as a potent light attribute, ideal for vanquishing evil. With fiery determination in his eyes, Fang Yi agrees. His sword instantly ignites in a column of crackling flames. With an eager smirk, he anticipates merging the boundless energy of Skyfire with his Crimson Flame Blade technique. He chooses the mutant creature as his first test subject. Fang Yi unleashes a powerful firestorm upon the monster. The creature is caught off guard, its eyes widening in terror before it is entirely engulfed by the storm of flames, shrieking in agony. Standing amidst the flames he conjured, Fang Yi tests his new ability. He discovers that the energy of his attack is now doubled, or even tripled compared to before. Most importantly, the flames do not harm him. He touches the blade of his sword, still engulfed in flames, and notices that it feels cool to the touch. Suddenly, he realizes that the creature has survived the attack and is attempting to escape. With a determined expression, he resolves to chase the intruder to discover what it is capable of. Meanwhile, deep within the same forest, a young woman with curly red hair. She is live streaming from her phone, which is mounted on a selfie stick. She tells her viewers that she isn't a liar. Rather, she has always been incredibly lucky, and amazing content seems to find her. Her viewers express skepticism, with one commenter challenging her to prove her luck by going to Chingcheng University to film the mysterious sky fire that everyone is discussing. Her confident broadcast is abruptly interrupted as her expression shifts to one of sheer shock. The monkey-like creature that escaped from Fang Yi leaps out of the woods and viciously attacks her. The force of the attack sends her phone flying, cracking its screen upon impact with the ground. Yet the live stream persists. Through the cracked screen, her viewers see the monster pinning her to the ground, but they believe it's merely a staged fight with poor special effects. The streamer is in grave danger. She screams in terror as the monster pins her down, its paw covering her mouth. The creature opens its enormous fanged mouth, poised to deliver a lethal bite. Before it can strike, a massive blast of fiery energy takes shape. A dragon's head strikes the monster, sending it flying backward. The streamer gazes up in shock, having been saved at the last moment. Her viewers are astonished, not by the realism of the peril, but by what they perceive as amazing fire dragon special effects. The sudden and dramatic turn of events causes her viewership to surge to over 13,000. Still frightened, the streamer glances over her shoulder and asks, "Who's there?" She hurriedly reaches for her phone on the ground. Rising to her feet, she points the camera at the source of the attack. Standing before a roaring fire, she shouts to her audience that she has captured it on film, revealing that someone is standing within the flames. Her camera captures the silhouette of Fang Yi, standing unharmed amidst the flames. In her terrified yet awestruck mind, she realizes she has just been saved by a true immortal. The video of Fang Yi rescuing the live streamer, Malala, quickly goes viral, becoming the top trending topic online with over 13.5 million views. Dramatic headlines label him as a mysterious man of skyfire, the king of flames, and an immortal come to earth to save the world. In the office, Chu Qingli's friend eagerly beckons her to check out a video on her computer screen. Excitedly, she insists that it proves the existence of powerful cultivators and that the sky fire at the university was genuine. However, Chu Qingli remains skeptical, urging her friend not to believe such claims and insisting that it's merely acting and special effects. As she examines the screen more closely, her skeptical expression transforms into one of shock and recognition. Her friend, oblivious to her reaction, excitedly points at the screen, triumphantly declaring she was right and commenting on how handsome the man in the video is, before finally noticing her friend's stunned silence. Internally, Chu Qingli is in turmoil, desperately convincing herself that the video must be fake and that the figure merely resembles Fang Yi. She reasons that, if it were truly him, he would have been reduced to ash by such intense flames. Her denial then shifts to fear as she contemplates the possibility that it actually is him. She worries he might use his newfound power to seek revenge for their breakup, but she resolutely decides that she will never submit to him, no matter what. Meanwhile, the red-haired leader of Lin Yi's pioneer squad shares the same video with Yi on her phone. The leader inquires if the man looks familiar, hinting that he might be the one who rescued them from the monstrous vine. Yi confirms that he does, then reveals an astonishing detail. She recently discovered that a powerful individual who has reached the spirit creation realm resides in her neighborhood. She starts to wonder if her unassuming cousin and this remarkable pioneer could be the same person. In a different location, Zhang Xiaoya and a male pioneer from the lava cave incident are also watching the video. The man recognizes Fang Yi's fighting stance and comments on how much stronger he has become. Meanwhile, his companion observes that Fang Yi's blade technique remains unchanged. Realizing how fortunate they were to have such a powerful ally on their side, News of Fang Yi's public display of power reaches the upper echelons of the nation's two main organizations. Within a sleek, modern skyscraper, presumably the association's headquarters, the city's crisis appears to be worsening, as the current leaders struggle to keep pace. In a high-level meeting room, Su Qingying addresses a group of officials, informing them that she will agree to assist them. Meanwhile, in a military command center, Ji Ruan, Major Han Li, and other officers discuss the latest intelligence. They are astonished by his swift advancement, labeling him a monster for achieving the spirit creation realm so quickly. They debate the number of high-tier attributes he might possess, with one officer concluding it could be 3, or even more. They agree that attempting to intimidate him was unwise and that their only option is 2. Major Han Li inquires whether the High Command has chosen to approach him directly. Ji Ruan confirms this, but notes that the top brass remains reluctant to humble themselves, as all previous top-tier pioneers have originated from within the military's ranks. Taking charge, Major Han Li outlines the new strategy. He instructs his subordinates to determine what new weapons or equipment Fang Yi may require and to gather information on training locations as a gesture of goodwill. Additionally, he issues a critical final command. The viral live stream video and all associated rumors must be effectively managed and controlled. The entire spiritual energy circle in the Shan Nation has shifted its focus to Fang Yi. Su Qingying expresses concern over the immense pressure he faces, while Ji Ruyan wears a subtle, confident smile. As leaders of their respective groups, both women eagerly anticipate what this remarkable young man will do next. In a tranquil hospital room, a heart monitor beeps rhythmically. A mysterious woman with long purple hair sits by the bedside of an unseen patient, whom she refers to as her teacher. Speaking softly, she tells him that the Sha Nation appears to have found new hope. With someone as powerful as Fang Yi now in the picture, she believes the chances of her teacher finally waking up have increased slightly. The following day, back at the apartment, Fang Yi is having breakfast while reflecting on the events of the previous day. He considers how news of his battle in the back mountain went viral, all thanks to a bold live streamer who managed to sneak into the restricted area for views. While eating, he observes that the video has been entirely removed from the internet, and the live streamer's account has been banned, correctly deducing that it was the work of the military or the Spiritual Energy Association. His casual thoughts are abruptly interrupted when he realizes that something is amiss. His cousin Lin Yi didn't come home the previous night and hasn't sent him any messages. He finds this quite unusual, even if she was out on a mission. A sense of unease intensifies as he attempts to call her, but the call goes straight to an out-of-service message. Now genuinely concerned, he realizes something must be wrong and decides he needs to go find her. Meanwhile, deep within a dark and misty forest, Lin Yi and the red-haired leader of her pioneer squad find themselves lost and trapped. The leader asks Yi if she knows how long they've been stuck there. Yi estimates it's been around 10 hours, but she can no longer keep track. The red-haired leader, appearing exhausted and bruised, sincerely apologizes, taking full responsibility for involving Yi in this predicament. She confesses that she believed they were merely investigating a peculiar phenomenon. As she speaks, she winces and clutches her side in pain. Yi tells her to stop apologizing, insisting that her own strength is the issue. She urges her leader to remain vigilant and conserve the little energy they have left. As she strives to remain strong, her thoughts wander to the immensely powerful master she observed, longing for even a fraction of his strength to save them. Their urgent conversation is abruptly interrupted when a massive, shadowy monster with glowing red eyes and a menacing, spiky shape emerges from the fog right behind them. The creature lunges forward, its claws targeting the red-haired leader. Reacting with remarkable speed, Lin Yi pushes her companion aside, shouting a warning. She then releases a burst of bright blue spiritual energy. From her hand, a sharp blade of light emerges, cleanly severing the head of the attacking creature. As they rise to their feet, more shadowy, zombie-like figures emerge from the fog. Yi Yi realizes with dread that these must be the reanimated bodies of others who were trapped and perished in this place. After defeating one of the creatures, which dissolves into a puddle of black mist, Yi Yi explains that the main monster is merely toying with them, transforming its victims into these bizarre puppets. The red-haired leader adds that their attacks have little impact on the mist itself, and their spiritual energy is rapidly being drained, all while the true enemy remains concealed. They quickly come to understand that they are ensnared in an illusion crafted by the monstrous swirling gray void where the creature appears invincible. It's a waiting game, with the monster allowing them to grow weary. A bead of sweat trickles down the leader's face as the gravity of their dire situation becomes clear. Suddenly, the sky above them tears open to reveal a massive blood-red eye staring down. The leader screams Yi's name in terror. The eye is a grotesque, pulsating mass of flesh that begins to bubble and multiply, splitting into numerous smaller, slimy eyeballs. Angry and desperate, the red-haired leader lashes out, furiously chopping at the flying eyeballs and destroying several in a frenzy. However, Yi Yi senses a shift in the creature's energy and cautions her leader not to be reckless. Realizing that their enemy is finally losing patience, the main eye then releases a powerful, concentrated blast of red energy. Yi Yi manages to erect a crystal barrier just in time, but the force of the impact is immense. The barrier shatters, leaving Yi Yi alone in the heavy darkness, surrounded by dozens of glowing red eyes. She feels her hope diminish, questioning if this is how she will meet her end. Trapped in the monster's dark domain, Lin Yi is gradually being consumed by shadowy tendrils. She can no longer hear her leader's voice and realizes they have both been engulfed by the darkness. A wave of regret washes over her as she apologizes to herself for her overconfidence, acknowledging that she was mistaken to believe they could manage such a perilous mission on their own. As she embraces her fate, her thoughts drift to the future she will never experience, contemplating what the world will be like after the complete revival of spiritual energy. With a final pang of despair, she mourns the magnificent era she will miss, reaching out her hand as she sinks into the abyss of glowing red eyes. Tears flow down her cheeks as she closes her eyes, bracing herself for the end. Just when all hope appears to be lost, a brilliant explosion of light erupts, shattering the darkness. A figure emerges from the shadows, exuding a powerful aura of crackling blue energy. It is Fang Yi, his eyes radiating power. He reflects to himself that he nearly didn't arrive in time. Yi stares in shock and disbelief, tears still fresh on her cheeks as she recognizes her rescuer and gasps his name, realizing he is her cousin. With a mighty blast of divine thunder, Fang Yi utterly shatters the monster's shadowy realm. He lands gracefully in the now clear forest, his hands still crackling with residual electricity. He has rescued both his cousin and her unconscious leader. Yi can only stare, her world turned upside down by the astonishing revelation that her seemingly ordinary and lazy cousin is, in fact, an incredibly powerful pioneer. The battle is far from over. The true form of the anomaly, a grotesque, multi-eyed, fleshy orb emerges from the shadows behind Fang Yi. Yi Yi shakes off her shock and urgently warns him that the creature's main body is right behind him. Fang Yi, however, remains untroubled. His hand ignites with the golden red energy of skyfire. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he recognizes the perfect opportunity to test the impact of his new power on a creature with a dark attribute. He springs into action, unleashing his Crimson Flame Blade technique. The attack, now enhanced by the unquenchable power of skyfire, the monster is completely engulfed in a raging fire. It emits a final agonizing shriek as the divine flames consume it. In the aftermath, the red-haired leader gradually regains consciousness. She discovers that she and Yi are sitting safely on the ground, encircled by a protective ring of fire. Confused and frightened, she asks Yi if they have died and been dragged to hell along with the monster. Yi, now much calmer, reassures her leader to look closely, reminding her that they are still alive. Still grappling with the events, The leader echoes Yi Yi's words in disbelief before asking who saved them. Fang Yi strolls over to his cousin and her leader, a small smile on his face as the protective flames fade away. He informs them that the problem is resolved, and, glancing at the time, notes that they must not have had breakfast yet. The red-haired leader gazes at him, her eyes widening in sudden recognition. She jumps to her feet, her face radiating pure excitement and awe. Pointing at Fang Yi, she confirms that he is the one who saved them from the monstrous death vine in Yanggo town. Fang Yi looks slightly surprised, realizing that he was recognized so easily. Lin Yi is utterly astonished by this new revelation. She asks her leader if she is implying that the powerful fire attribute master who saved them from the vine is also her cousin. The leader turns to Yi Yi, equally surprised by the connection, and questions how this supermaster could possibly be her cousin, reminding Yi Yi that she had described him as an entirely ordinary person. Fang Yi can only scratch the back of his head, offering an awkward smile. The leader, still buzzing with excitement, grabs Yi Yi's shoulders and reminds her that this is the same savior who defeated the Desolation Vine with a single remarkable slash. Yi Yi's mind races as she tries to connect the dots. She comes to the realization that her cousin is indeed a high-level fire user, yet she remains confused after witnessing him unleash an incredibly pure and powerful thunder attribute to dispel the monster's dark mist. Her thoughts spiral as she begins to understand the implications. The immense strength of both his fire and thunder abilities indicates that he is a super genius with dual high-grade attributes. Then, another shocking realization strikes her as she recalls the significant spiritual disturbance in her neighborhood, which signaled a breakthrough to the legendary spirit creation realm. She wonders if that extraordinary display of power was also the work of her cousin. Frustrated by the confusion, Fang Yi interjects and confirms that it was indeed all his doing. He then shifts the conversation, inquiring about the dark attribute anomaly. He emphasizes that they should have recognized the seriousness of such a creature, and questions why only the two of them are present and where the rest of their teammates are. The red-haired leader explains that some teammates were unavailable, one was sick and stuck at home, while another was on a more challenging mission. They clarify that their squad doesn't always function as a complete unit. Yi acknowledges that it was her own mistake, admitting she had grown reckless after her recent breakthrough and mistakenly thought she could manage the mission on her own. Fang Yi listens, his expression contemplative. He remembers the infighting he observed within their team previously. He notes that the leader, who had been openly critical of her teammates, is now defending them to an outsider. He recognizes her loyalty and suspects that his astute cousin has also sensed the team's instability. Now that his identity is known to two people he trusts, he presents a proposition. He turns to his cousin and her friend, asking if they would like to team up with him. Both women are momentarily stunned into silence, but the red-haired leader soon bursts into joy. She clasps her hands, thrilled at the opportunity to team up with such a powerful master, exclaiming how incredibly lucky she feels to benefit from Yi's connection. Yi Yi, however, is experiencing a deeper realization. She recognizes that a pioneer as formidable as her cousin must have known her secret all along and has been quietly watching over her. The idea that, on this challenging and solitary path of cultivation, she has a dependable and strong family member supporting her without expecting anything in return fills her with immense happiness and relief. A single tear of gratitude glides down her cheek. Wiping away her tears, she beams a bright, happy smile and gives her cousin a peace sign, expressing her gratitude and promising to make him 2 extra eggs for dinner. At that moment, Yi's phone buzzes with a notification. She announces that Sister Zhaolan, the enigmatic and influential member of their pioneer group, has just shared a new mission. The message serves as an alert for a high-risk collection task in an area known as the Extreme Dark Zone, explicitly linked to the dark attribute. Zhaolan concludes the message with a serious warning, urging everyone to think carefully before signing up. Fang Yi inquires if they are familiar with this zone. Yi clarifies that it is a border area strictly prohibited by the Xia nation. The dark energy in that area is so overwhelmingly powerful that most pioneers deliberately avoid it. She notes that many of the strange anomalies appearing in their city are actually energy leakages from this forbidden zone. Due to the extreme danger, even the government has been unable to conduct thorough explorations, as previous attempts have led to serious accidents. Intrigued, Fang Yi proposes they give it a shot and asks Yi Yi to message Zhao Lan for more specific details about the mission. Yi Yi responds that it's pointless, as Zhao Lan is notoriously enigmatic and seldom shares more than a few words at once. Fang Yi contemplates this information and deduces that for Zhao Lan to issue a mission in a top-secret, government-controlled area, she must either be an exceptionally bold rogue defying the authorities, or hold a high-ranking position within the military or the Spiritual Energy Association. He concludes that the latter scenario is far more probable. Despite her reservations, Yi Yi, using her online handle Feng Heisu, messages Zhao Lan to express her interest in signing up and to request more details. To the surprise of both her and the red-haired leader, Zhao Lan responds with unexpected detail. The mission involves collecting a Shizhai flower. She cautions that, although the rewards for this task are significantly higher than usual, all the dangers within the extreme dark zone are tied to the dark attribute, making the risk level far greater than anything they have faced before. She strongly advises all pioneers to form teams before embarking on the mission. The two women are taken aback by the thoroughness of her response, which is completely out of character for her. Moments later, Zhao Lan sends an even more urgent message. She cautions that the mission may involve an S-level anomaly and that the death rate is alarmingly high, urging them to think twice. She concludes with a subtle piece of advice. If you have a strong and dependable pioneer to partner with, it's not too late to join. Meanwhile, the enigmatic purple-haired woman from the hospital, revealed to be Zhao Lan, strides down a corridor accompanied by guards. Glancing at her phone, she reflects that she has done all she can. Now it is up to that person to decide whether they are ready to accept the challenge. Back in the park, Fang Yi smirks, fully grasping the subtext. He informs Yi Yi that Zhao Lan's message is not merely a warning, it's a direct and personal invitation. He reveals the hidden meaning. I know who you are, and I'm confident that a pioneer of your caliber would be intrigued. I dare you to come. Fang Yi recognizes that this entire mission posting was directed at him. As he gazes out at the bleak and desolate landscape of the extreme dark zone, he finds the prospect captivating and resolves to make the trip. Lin Yi, known online as Feng Heiju, officially accepts the mission, informing Zhao Lan that her team consists of 3 members. The scene shifts to a hospital waiting area, where Zhao Lan walks alongside 2 female assistants. One of them expresses concern about the small size of the newly signed team. However, Zhao Lan remains calm and confident, stating that if he is a pioneer whom the Shan nation can genuinely trust, he will come. The helper expresses concern about what will happen to the other pioneers if he doesn't arrive. Zhao Lan calmly responds that if he doesn't come, it means their fates were not meant to intertwine. As they walk, a smirk forms on Zhao Lan's lips. She asks her helpers if they truly believe the mission to collect the Shizhai flower has a specific purpose: to send formidable pioneers to their demise. She clarifies that the true objective of this perilous mission is the complete opposite of what it appears to be. A vision unveils the essence of the flower, which blossoms from a dark, malevolent pool nourished by the bodies and souls of fallen pioneers. Zhao Lan asserts that obtaining this flower is essential for fortifying the nation, as it is the only means to ultimately save even more pioneers in the future. She explains that the purpose of this mission is to safeguard the future strength of the Xian nation, embodied by the new generation of pioneers like Fang Yi and his team, who are seen traveling to the mission on a subway, as well as to revive the elite fighting force that has already fallen in battle. They arrive at the hospital room of her teacher, an elderly man in a coma. Holding his hand, she reiterates their goal. They must obtain more Shizhai flowers at any cost. She discloses his identity and the significance of their mission. Her teacher is the sole pioneer in the entire Xian nation to have attained the legendary Jingyang realm, and the Shizai flower is the only thing that can awaken him from his coma. Zhao Lan highlights the immense strategic value of such an individual. After a complete spiritual revival, a Jingyang realm powerhouse resembles a modern nuclear weapon, positioning him as the nation's most valuable asset in diplomatic negotiations. From her perspective, sacrificing a few pioneers or even entire squads is a small price to pay for his return. Her assistant, however, grows worried about Zhao Lan's well-being, reminding her that while the mission is important, her health is equally so. The comment elicits a negative reaction. Zhao Lan's expression darkens as she reiterates, "My health is important." Suddenly, she erupts with a mix of rage and sorrow, shouting that her life holds significance, but only because it was a gift bought with the lives of her fallen comrades who died to save her. She clutches her head, struck by a sudden, intense pain, a physical manifestation of her trauma. After a moment, she regains her composure and apologizes for her outburst. One of her helpers inquires if her headache is flaring up again. Zhao Lan brushes off their concern, stating that it's not yet time for her medicine. A vision of her once happy team flashes in her mind, and she turns away with a weary, sorrowful expression, murmuring that it's all in the past. The narrative shifts to a traumatic memory from Zhao Lan's past. In a dark, desolate landscape, a voice urgently calls for the sword-wielding squad to leave at once. A younger Zhao Lan kneels among the bodies of her fallen comrades as her dying captain entrusts her with the mission to obtain the Shizai flower. Trembling in despair and reflecting on her teacher and her country, she comes to understand that the extreme dark zone is an utterly unforgiving place. She screams in protest, unwilling to abandon her captain. In his final moments, the captain places his hand on hers, transferring his spiritual energy. He expresses his hope that their powers will aid her and urges her to return alive. In the present, Zhao Lan stands in the hospital, reflecting on that tragic day. She reveals the bitter irony of her team's sacrifice. They bestowed their power upon her, unaware that a Shizai flower becomes useless if tainted by blood or not picked perfectly. Their mission ultimately failed, even as they saved her life. Later, after a lengthy journey, Fang Yi's new team reaches the desolate outskirts of the extreme dark zone. The red-haired leader grumbles about the long trek. She inquires why they don't simply fly, considering their abilities. Yi clarifies that even for pioneers, sustained flight isn't feasible until one's spiritual energy is significantly vast. Fang Yi stays silent, his glowing red eyes fixed on their destination. They finally reach a massive, heavily guarded checkpoint that serves as the entrance to the zone. Beyond rows of tank traps and fencing, a shimmering blue energy barrier comes into view. Fang Yi confirms that this must be the extreme dark zone. Even from a distance, and beyond the multiple barriers, he can sense the deeply unsettling aura of the dark attribute seeping through. She and her leader are clearly unsettled by the intense energy, with the leader remarking that it's 1,000 times more terrifying than the monster they faced previously. Fang Yi calmly advises them to stay composed. He then notes that they are not the only ones who have answered the call. A large, diverse crowd of other pioneers has already assembled at the checkpoint, awaiting the start of the mission. Yi suspects that the pioneers are motivated by more than just the substantial reward. She elaborates that, however, with the rising number of violent dark attribute monsters emerging in the cities, pioneers have recognized that they can no longer afford to overlook the source of the issue. Many have come here to confront the threat directly and seek ways to fight back. The red-haired leader nods in agreement with her reasoning, while Fang Yi watches with a slight smile, impressed by her cousin's keen intellect. The scene depicts a diverse group of wild pioneers, each sporting unique gear and styles, all eagerly awaiting the gates to open. While they wait, Fang Yi shares his motivation for accepting such a perilous mission. He reveals that he has encountered dark attribute monsters twice before. The first was a mutated rabbit, resembling a grotesque rat-like creature. The second was the serpent and its rat-like companion, the Candle Knight, a clever duo that collaborated to lure and ensnare pioneers. A mission that nearly decimated an entire squad from the Spiritual Energy Association. He emphasizes that the key detail, as his cousin Yi Ji rightly noted, these creatures appear to be intentionally and cleverly circumventing the military defenses at the city's borders. He suspects they are employing an unknown method to infiltrate urban areas. These incidents have occurred so frequently that they can no longer be overlooked. The situation has deteriorated to the point where, if the source is not addressed, the cities will ultimately be overwhelmed. Therefore, he concludes that they have no choice but to venture into the extreme dark zone. At the checkpoint, a military officer observes as Su Qingying briefs a group of pioneers in front of the energy barrier. She stands with a grim, serious expression, prepared for the dangerous mission ahead. Her concentration falters as she notices a familiar group approaching. She is utterly shocked to see Fang Yi approaching with Lin Yi and the red-haired leader. Her Zhang Shaoya, the green-haired subordinate, is equally taken aback and calls out to her, but Su Qingying stands frozen, covering her mouth in panic. She silently prays that the great master won't see her in the crowd, but her hopes are dashed when Fang Yi locks eyes with her, a questioning expression on his face as he calls out her name, identifying her as Captain Su. Resigned, Su Qingying approaches with her cloaked squad members, having already obtained military intel about Fang Yi's team. The red-haired leader, known for her playful nature, sizes up the striking silver-haired girl and teasingly asks Fang Yi if this is Yi's sister-in-law, a term often used for a potential girlfriend. The suggestion sends both Yi and Su Qingying into a frenzy. Blushing, Su Qingying waves her arms, insisting that it's a huge misunderstanding. Fang Yi calmly clarifies that she is not who Su Qingying thinks. Instead, she is Captain Su from the Spiritual Energy Association, assisting him with various tasks. However, this explanation only seems to fluster Su Qingying further, as she finds the description even more irritating than the romantic notion. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by a loud, arrogant voice. An imposing older man in heavy red armor steps forward, flanked by two other armored pioneers, and calls the group a bunch of shameless brats. He loudly laments that the new generation of pioneers is younger and more disrespectful, failing even to greet their elders. He admonishes them for speaking casually in such a perilous environment. He concludes with a sarcastic remark, expressing his hope that they can all depend on one another in the extreme dark zone. The red-haired leader becomes angry, but Yi restrains her, attempting to defuse the situation. Fang Yi steps calmly between them, signaling for his teammate to relax. Unfazed, the red-haired leader points a finger at the arrogant man, telling him to mind his own business and warning that it's anyone's guess who will be terrified inside. The man's expression shifts to an angry glare. At that moment, they heard smirks as their car arrived. A large armored transport with police lights pulled up, and its back door swung open. The enigmatic Zhao Lan steps forward, instantly capturing the attention of every pioneer present. The crowd gasps as they recognize the infamous Sister Zhao Lan. She strides forward with an air of authority, flanked by her guards, while the pioneers murmur in awe, questioning who she is to warrant such a grand entrance. Fang Yi observes her approach and realizes her purpose. She is the one who will open the gate for them. Zhao Lan stands before the enormous, crackling blue energy barrier. She raises her hand, collecting a swirl of pure energy until a glowing blue symbol materializes in her palm. With a strong shove, she propels the symbol forward, causing the massive energy barrier to tear open, revealing a dark passage into the Forbidden Zone. With the gate now open, the S-Class mission has officially commenced.